What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6 at chapter 126. Doug's Bullet previous chapter next chapter. Advertisement chapter 126. Doug's Bullet of course, the rise of the red hair pirates later also attracted Marine's attention. Soon, Marine raised the Red Hair's reward order to the same level as several other monsters, and announced that the Red Hair was once a member of the crew of One Piece Roger. After getting the news, many people felt relieved. Although Roger was captured by Marine. But even so, he is still the leader of this era of great pirates, and he is still the first pirate to completely conquer the Grand Line. At the same time, with the rise of Red Hair pirates, a large number of people from the same era also appeared in the eyes of everyone. Gecko Moria, Lock Dar, Doflamingo, Bartholomew Kuma, and 423, the Hawkeye Mahawk who started sword-fighting challenges all over the world. At the same time, one person that has to be mentioned is the strongest monster on the ship of One Piece, who was able to tie with Pluton Rayleigh, the deputy of One Piece, second only to Roger, Dao Jing Bullet. Going crazy because of Roger's affairs, Bullet's crazy behavior has attracted the attention of the world government. Powerful and completely unrestricted. Bullet's threat is far higher than that of Whitebeard and other slightly quieter guys. Advertisement. Although Marine can mobilize Buster Call and even Marine Admiral to encircle and suppress Bullet, after all, in the era of great pirates, it is already quite difficult for Marine just to maintain this situation. Not to mention pulling out Buster Call level combat power to encircle and suppress a pirate. But Bullet couldn't just leave it alone. In the end, the world government still remembered the Hunters Guild, a powerful organization that could solve problems with money. Marijoy Five Elders, with his long white goatee, was flipping through an unknown book without haste. On the opposite side of him was a man who was as gentleman as a vampire aristocrat. There is no doubt that this man is the vice president of the Hunters Guild, the Lonely Rider. However, the only ones who know his identity are himself and Murphy. 4 billion Baileys, the government's hands are really big enough. After hearing the offer from Five Elders, Ryder couldn't help being surprised. What is the concept of 4 billion Pele? You must know that Duan Yi only has the value of Whitebeard's bounty at this time. And now Five Elders actually offered such a price for their Hunters Guild to deal with a Bullet. You must know that the difficulty between the two is not at the same level. Among other things, Whitebeard is probably much stronger than Bullet. Advertisement coupled with the fact that there are so many people in the Whitebeard Pirates, the difficulty is naturally conceivable. Of course, if it's just given according to the reward order, I'm afraid your Hunter Guild will not accept it. Five Elders with mustaches glanced at Ryder and said. Although the Hunters Guild is their partner, Five Elders still looks down on the Hunters Guild. From the beginning to the end, they just regarded the Hunters Guild as a tool in their hands. That's true. I have to say that 4 billion Baileys are really tempting, but if you want me to take Bullet's head, sorry, I can't do it now. Ryder spread his hands and rejected Five Elders' offer without hesitation. If the Five Elders had come to him a day earlier, maybe he would have agreed directly. But just yesterday, Murphy told Ryder directly that he wanted Bullet to be the second vice president of the Hunter Guild. You know it's a mission. If he can do it, Ryder will get a full 8 Hogyoku shards. The position of the second vice president of the Hunter Guild has been vacant for so many years, and Ryder has long coveted the reward for finding the second vice president. Every time he uses Hogyoku's fragments, he can clearly feel how quickly his strength has grown. To be honest, Ryder has become somewhat addicted to this thing. Money is something that will come sooner or later, but strength is different. Advertisement, especially through these years of continuous missions, the Hogyoku fragments in Ryder's hands are already more than 20 yuan. If you can win over Bullet and get 8 more pieces, then you can own 30 pieces of Hogyoku in one go. Only single digits away from a full Hogyoku. How could such a temptation make Ryder not excited? Refused? Why? Isn't your Hunters Guild claiming to be able to accept all tasks? Or do you think 4 billion is not enough to buy a Bullet's head? Although the world government has money, it's not like you endlessly asking for it. Hearing Ryder's refusal, the Five Elders holding the demon sword asked angrily. Over the years, the world government and the Hunters Guild have cooperated a lot, and the Hunters Guild has invested at least 10 billion Baileys in it. Although it cost a lot of money, The attitude of the Hunter Guild has always made them very satisfied. The first is that they dare to take on any task, and the second is that the efficiency of completion is also very qualified. After hearing Ryder's refusal, 5 elders, holding the demon knife, didn't even think about it, thinking that the other party must want to get more money. No. This time it has nothing to do with money. Your Excellency should know the rules of our Hunters Guild, right? It is impossible for our Hunters Guild to accept the task of becoming a member of the Hunters Guild. Ryder was not in a hurry either. Speaking slowly, he was not affected at all by the attitude of 5 elders holding the sword. But it was Ryder's attitude that made them even more upset. A member of the Hunters Guild? Are you trying to say that Bastard Bullet is from your Hunters Guild? What a joke. That guy isn't even a bounty hunter. Chapter 127 Celestial Dragons Patriarch Meeting Previous Chapter. Next chapter advertisement Chapter 127 Celestial Dragons Patriarch Meeting. Hearing what Ryder said, the 5 elders simply felt that Ryder was playing them. Although the Hunter Guild is said to be a neutral force, it has always maintained cooperation with the world government. So there is one thing that has never been contaminated. That is to let the pirates join the Hunters Guild. Literally, the higher-ups issued an order for us to invite Bullet to join the Hunters Guild as the vice chairman. You bastard! The blonde 5 elders clenched his fists, looking at Ryder in front of him with killing intent in his eyes. Inviting a pirate to join the Hunters Guild, if this precedent is set, where will the world government's face be put? You guys from the Hunters Guild are too presumptuous. Do you know what it means to invite a pirate to join us? Such an approach is simply provoking their world government and 5 elders. Of course I know, but if it's just one person, you should agree? Ryder said indifferently. Of course, he also knew that the 12 5 elders would never agree to such a thing. However, they have an absolute trump card that can contain the 5 elders. Advertisement because, at this time when Ryder is negotiating with the 5 elders. The other side in the most luxurious manner in the world. Dozens of gorgeously dressed 2 unexpected guests arrive at the Celestial Dragons family meeting. At the same time, outside, masked CPOs were waiting at the door, ready to guard against any incoming enemies. It is no exaggeration to say that the death of any one of the Celestial Dragons' 20 kings' families will cause a shock in the whole world. Golden Lion had an inexplicable smile on his face. And in front of him, 18 pieces of Hogyoku were floating in the air. Hogyoku exuding different colors are dazzling. No matter how gorgeous the decoration in this hall is, it cannot compare with these Hogyoku fragments exuding distinctiveness in front of them. And the most important thing is that at this time, the eyes of these proud celestial dragons have been completely attracted by Hogyoku in front of them. The extremely hot gaze was like a dying person seeing a panacea that could cure all diseases. Then we, the Hunter Guild's request, will trouble all celestial dragons owners. Looking at the celestial dragons with fiery eyes, Golden Lion didn't feel any fluctuations in his heart, and even felt a little funny. This group of so-called celestial dragons, facing the temptation of longevity, no one can stand this temptation. President Golden Lion, you are too polite. As far as these 2 things are concerned, it is just a matter of little effort for us. That's right, speaking of it, we have to thank Chairman Golden Lion. Advertisement, Hogyoku, which can make people immortal, is much simpler than that op fruit. It's just canceling a pirate's reward order. It's not a simple matter for us. Why? President Golden Lion, you have done so many things for us, and that pirate will also join the Hunters Guild at that time, so he will definitely not be a bad person. Under the temptation of not being old, the group of celestial dragons who are usually aloof and superior behaved like ordinary people without any difference. It can even be said that the table is more excited. The more money power people have, the less they want to lose it. On the contrary, those who have had enough of the torture of life may see life and death more plainly. It's not enough to just talk and not do it. After all, we are a merchant-like organization, and we have to see something before we can pay. I also ask the owners to put pressure on His Excellency 5 elders in the near future to let them implement this matter. It doesn't matter in the near future, we will immediately find 5 elders in the power room and immediately implement this matter. The celestial dragons sitting at the front, who looked to be nearly 80 years old, said immediately. Although they are celestial dragons, they have always enjoyed the best things and the best medical treatment, but after all, they are already 80 years old, and the head of the 5 elders is also in very bad health. For him, the immortal treasure is right in front of him, how could he still wait? So without saying a word, he directly agreed, and immediately said that he would go to the power room to find 5 elders and solve this matter immediately. After all, at this age, he can't guarantee whether he can see the sun tomorrow when he sleeps every night. If you are willing to solve it immediately, I have no objection. The moment the matter is resolved, I will immediately give the power of immortality to the owners of celestial dragons. After finishing speaking, this group of celestial dragons also started to leave immediately. Advertisement soon. The owners of this group of celestial dragons all came to the right where the 5 stars are located. 5 elders, who was talking with Ryder, saw this group of celestial dragons owners coming here, and they didn't react for a while. What causes so many celestial dragons to come to him at the same time? We demand that the bounty order for that pirate bullet be revoked. Before 5 elders could react to what was going on, a patriarch of celestial dragons rushed to 257 aggressively and said to 5 elders. For them, nothing is more important than eternal life. As for 5 elders, it doesn't matter so much usually, but when it comes to their own interests, there is not so much respect. Pirate, bullet, are you? Hearing what the celestial dragons said, the 5 elders all looked at each other in blank dismay. They were still discussing with Ryder just now. Bullet is a pirate, it is impossible to let him join the Hunters Guild, and then treat it like everything happens. Immediately following the next step, the heads of the 18 celestial dragons ran up to him, demanding that he revoke Bullet's reward order. No matter how you think about it, this is no accident. It is very likely that the Hunter Guild has arranged the plot early. Chapter 128. The 5 Elders Slapped in the Face Advertisement. Chapter 128. The 5 Elders Slapped in the Face. Didn't I say it all? You'll agree. Seeing the 5 elders looking at each other, puzzled, Ryder couldn't help laughing. He just said that the 5 elders would agree, and after a few minutes, the celestial dragons came over. You could say it slapped 5 elders in the face. You bastard. Hearing Ryder's ridicule, 5 elders' face became extremely ugly. Facing the heads of the 18 celestial dragons, even their 5 elders had to face it cautiously. It would be fine if they were ordinary celestial dragons, but this is the owner of celestial dragons. It represents the existence of the pinnacle of the power of the 20 royal families. If they forcefully confront them, then they are definitely the ones who can't get any benefits. Skip us and make a deal with the owner of the celestial dragons? You bastards of the Hunter Guild? Seeing the eager looks of the 18 celestial dragons' patriarchs and Ryder's expected face, 5 elders knew that they had been completely tricked. Calm down. You're just a mere pirate. Seeing that the blonde-haired 5 elders was about to explode, the 5 elders holding a sword stopped him. Although it was said that this matter did slap them in the face, it couldn't actually affect anything. Advertisement after all, it was just sticking out the face and being slapped, and the slap was mainly on Marine's face, not the faces of the 5 of them. As politicians, they have already cultivated an extremely thick skin, how can such a mere thing affect him? Okay. We will agree to revoke Bullet's reward order, but, if that guy does something else, we will also issue a reward order for him again. If your Hunter Guild is really going to take that guy in, be prepared to take care of it middle. 5 elders could only try to be aggressive like this. Also, if Bullet doesn't agree to join you, then his reward order will not be revoked. Immediately afterwards, another 5 elders also added. You don't have to worry about the Bullet. We, the Hunter Guild, will handle this matter ourselves. Ryder replied lightly, and then left 5 elders' office directly. The other side, while Golden Lion Ryder went to negotiate with the world government celestial dragons, Murphy was not idle. The most important thing for Bullet to join the Hunters Guild is not to negotiate with the world government and celestial dragons, but to conquer Bullet, a monster-like guy. After Roger's death, the guy who crazily advocated strength had a strength comparable to that of One Piece Roger, and directly set his goal to be the strongest in the world from the very beginning. It has to be admitted that some people are indeed geniuses, just like Bullet, who are born with unbelievably terrifying power, even scarier than women like BIGMOM monsters. Douglas Bullet. This guy's potential is really terrifying. I wonder what kind of ability Hollow will have in the future. On an ordinary boat that couldn't be more ordinary, Murphy guessed very curiously. Advertisement Golden Lion has awakened an unknown ability, but that guy has been hiding something, probably trying to make a final fatal blow to himself. And Rider has the ability to indirect bloodsucking. As long as it is a creature, there is almost no one who can defeat Rider in close combat. As for Bullet, a talent that is definitely not weaker than Golden Lion and Rider, Murphy is also extremely curious about what kind of talent such a guy can have after Hollow. Murphy slightly raised the corners of his mouth, showing a typical gentle smile, and said, "I'm really looking forward to it." However, for some reason, the eyes in the square frame glasses suddenly became narrow and long, as if they were a little deeper. After all, in the end, he will recycle these talents and abilities. Clatter. On the calm sea, a small boat that doesn't look anything special and the same size as the boat under K-Phase feet is speeding towards the order. That speed is obviously not the speed that an ordinary ship should have. If someone looked carefully, they would be able to find that on top of that boat, there was a person who was rowing the boat with his hands, which was why he had such an amazing speed. Which one is? Marine Admiral. Suddenly, Bullet, who was rowing a boat and practicing physical skills, suddenly discovered that the person opposite turned out to be Marine Admiral. And Murphy also noticed Bullet's movement, shook his hand, and signaled Bullet to go to the small island on the other side. Advertisement? An invitation to fight? Interesting? Seeing Murphy's actions, Bullet didn't feel the slightest bit of flinching. Instead, it aroused Bullet's fighting spirit. Facing the level of Marine Admiral, Bullet has no fear. The pursuit of fighting with the strong is the essence of Bullet. Soon, both of them had arrived at the nearest small island. The man who defeated Roger. Since Roger's death, I have been following in your footsteps. Arriving on the island, Bullet looked at Murphy in front of him and said with a sneer. As a crew member of the One Piece King Roger, Wang Qian Zhao has always regarded the One Piece King Roger as his own goal. Until he got the news that Roger was terminally ill, he was completely confused. However, Murphy, who defeated Roger, became a brand new target for Bullet. As long as he can beat Murphy, it can prove that he has surpassed Roger. This is something more important than reaching Raftel. Chapter 129. Mad Dog Bullet. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 129. Mad Dog Bullet. You have defeated Golden Lion and Roger in succession. The man who tore apart the era of the three great pirates with his own hands. Let me see what kind of power you really have. Bullet's disdainful gaze fell on Murphy without reservation. Haughty and arrogant, unruly monster. Instead, let me see if you have the strength. With an undisguised killing intent, he opened his mouth to reveal a row of neat teeth. Boom! One suddenly. An incomparably horrifying Conqueror's Haki erupted directly outward, just like an imposing manner, but like a sudden and substantial shockwave, it crazily hit Murphy's whole body. Haki the incomparable man. Even compared to Roger's Haki in One Piece, it's not bad at all. In Murphy's opinion, it's still not enough, it doesn't even mean enough to threaten him, and even the level of Roger and Whitebeard seems a little bit insufficient. It seems that you are still 10 years away from Roger and the others, Murphy commented mercilessly. This decade is not just talking nonsense, but it is really 10 years away. Advertisement continued to hone for another 10 years, and then Bullet may really have the strength to fight Roger Whitebeard head-on. Let me show you how big this world is. Facing the violent Conqueror's Haki, Murphy said lightly. Voice just fell in the next second. Murphy, who looked like an ordinary person and didn't exude any special aura, erupted a terrifying ryotsu that could shake the entire island. The blue ryotsu crushed Bullet's Conqueror's Haki without mercy. The red Conqueror's Haki was like a huge but fragile balloon. After being bombarded by the extremely violent blue ryotsu, it shattered on the spot. Not only that, the terrible blue ryotsu directly bombarded Bullet's body. Boom boom. There is almost no room for resistance. Bullet's knee hit the ground, half kneeling facing Murphy, BCEB, in front of him. How is it possible to let me kneel down with pure momentum? Bullet said in disbelief, but the facts were just in front of Bullet. He, the one who is called the descendant of the devil. The man who is considered to be very likely to surpass Roger of One Piece. Unable to even stay upright under Murphy's ryotsu. Now yours is probably comparable to that guy Grimjow. It's even worse than Grimjow. Murphy glanced at Bullet lightly. Grimjow's strength is not weak, at least it is no problem to play against Marine Admiral. But underneath, I can only kneel down advertisement. At this time, Murphy already has Hogyoku, which is much stronger than Aizen, who has not yet used Hogyoku. F*****. Boom. Crack. As Ryotsu continued to strengthen, not only was Bullet slowly being crushed to the point where he couldn't stand up, even the island in front of him began to crack. Do you understand now, Bullet? The decisive gap between me and you. When Bullet was completely lying on the ground, Murphy retracted Ryotsu, walked up to Bullet, and asked lightly. I believe that after what happened just now, Barrett should also be able to feel the difference in strength. Understand? Are you kidding me? Now my goal is to kill you? Then surpass Roger and become the real strongest in the world? Even when Murphy put Ryotsu directly on the ground, Bullet still refused to admit defeat. In his eyes, there are only fists. Boom, accompanied by severe winds. The gigantic fist contained the extremely terrifying armament Haki and blasted towards Murphy directly. Boom. Greeting Bullet was also Murphy's seemingly ordinary palm, which easily grasped Bullet's fist. Sure enough, it's meaningless to talk to something like a mad dog. Only when you are completely beaten down with your fists, will you, a mad dog, lie obediently in front of me. Dog? Looks like I'll have to crush yours myself. Murphy's disdainful attitude completely irritated Bullet. Boom. Advertisement. The thick and incomparable arm muscles were erected, covering the terrifying armament. Haki bombarded Murphy's body like raindrops at an extremely fast speed. The continuous high-speed and high-intensity attacks did not even intend to stop at all. Under Bullet's berserk attack, even the waves were surging. Hoo-hoo, wow la la, the shadow of the fist was even hard to see clearly. Facing Bullet's berserk attack, Murphy stood still from the beginning to the end, never moving a step. No matter how Bullet's attack hit him, it seemed to have no effect, not even a speck of dust, not even the marine cloak behind Murphy. The way to stand in front of Bullet is like an untouchable painting. Is it just this level? Douglas Bullet? This power can't even touch me? Murphy looked at Bullet, mocking with some disdain. In Murphy's eyes, Bullet was just pumping his fists into the air. Already integrated with Kyōka Suigetsu, he can easily put Bullet into complete control just by standing here. Couldn't even resist at all. What the hell is going on? Why can't I hit it? After several minutes of continuous attack, Bullet has already discovered that something is wrong no matter how reckless he is. He looked at Murphy with a very ugly face and asked. He is confident that it is impossible for someone to bear so many punches from him and still have no problems at all. Chapter 130. The Power of Kido. Number 1. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 130. The Power of Number 1 Kido. What the hell are you guys up to? Although he was shouting angrily, Bullet was extremely cautious in his heart, trying to analyze Murphy's ability. Since he launched an attack just now, although Murphy has completely blocked all of them, he has never initiated an attack on his own initiative. He guessed that it might be a relatively special ability. If he did an attack, he could get such a defensive power, but once Murphy launched an attack, the desperate defense would dissipate. In Bullet's view, it is impossible to really have this invincible ability. There must be some mechanism in it. Are you thinking that if I take the initiative to attack, this protective cover that makes you feel that you can't touch it will dissipate? Or do you think that my defense is strong, and the attack is not enough to defeat you? Looking into Bullet's eyes, Murphy is not observation Haki who has a mind-reading level, but simply guesses the other party's thoughts from Bullet's expression. This guy. Has seen through my thoughts. Hearing this, Bullet frowned deeply. It's not good news that one's own thoughts are completely seen through by the opponent. Even if this idea of being seen through doesn't have much practical use, the same is true. Because this already means that you have fallen into the opponent's rhythm. Don't get me wrong, Bullet. The reason why I haven't done anything yet is purely because I'm still thinking about how to defeat you so that you can surrender. As for your attack. Murphy maintained his usual gentle look. He said flatly. In front of my Ryotsu, it's not worth mentioning. Are you kidding me? The next moment, the purple light on Bullet's body soared. Advertisement. The purple light instantly turned into fluid, swallowing the ground under his feet. In an instant, the island under his feet was directly assimilated into a purple fluid. In a blink of an eye, those purples covered Bullet's entire body. Boom! With the constant trembling of the ground under his feet, A gigantic metal-armored mechanical assembly appeared in front of Murphy. Filtered fruit? It is indeed a very powerful devil fruit ability. The ability to combine fruit is indeed one of the best abilities in Paramecia. Facing such a giant monster, 99% of people can only feel despair. The destructive power is naturally needless to say, just using this ability has almost destroyed the entire island. Immediately afterwards, Murphy slightly raised the corners of his mouth, and under Ryatsu's blowing, the robe behind him was gently blown, and said, "However, in front of me, it is still nothing. Stop talking nonsense. You have to fight to know what happened." Coldly looking at the calm Murphy in front of him, Bullet's mind was full of Murphy's extremely calm look. And his gaze also became more determined. The exaggeratedly huge metal-colored fist after the fusion was directly covered with a layer of terrifying armament hockey, glowing with an abnormal metallic luster. It's really crazy to be covered with such an exaggerated hockey. Seeing that the combined titan controlled by Bullet used his own hockey so crazily, Murphy also felt that this guy was a bit crazy. Completely disregarding his own body, he exploded his armament hockey crazily. Advertisement: this is naturally quite terrifying for the load on the body. But at the same time, if he can squeeze out the last bit of strength in his body, then after he fully recovers in the future, his hockey will definitely be upgraded to another level. It's no wonder that Bullet has such terrifying strength. Being able to do such a thing is enough to prove that Bullet is not an ordinary guy. "I am the strongest, surpass Roger, surpass you." Bullet, who was sitting in the body of the huge fit titan, kept growling. Clenched fists tightly. Although the power is good, but in my opinion, it is nothing more than a pile of scrap metal. Look at the gigantic fit titan. Indeed, whether it is defense or power, this fit titan is quite a terrifying existence. Ask for flowers. But there is also a point. That is, in the face of attacks above the same level, this so-called combined titan is extremely vulnerable. After all, to control such a huge titan, it is impossible for Bullet to not miss any loopholes. And these weaknesses are now clearly exposed in front of Murphy, and it only takes a little attack to cause the huge combined titan to collapse directly. I saw Murphy slowly raised his hand, aiming at the huge combined titan in front of him, one of Hado. Boom. Advertisement: a shock wave like airwaves directly hit the huge combined titan. Impartially, it just hit the waist of the huge fit titan. Boom. The deafening roar exploded immediately, shaking all the surrounding atmosphere away. The astonishing airwaves directly blew away all the surrounding gravel, and the surrounding waves also set off quite terrifying peaks. Boom. Bullet's seemingly invincible impact, under this impact, directly collapsed from the middle. Even Bullet himself sitting in the control room was directly thrown out, and hit the ground behind Hard Superior. Bang! One. The loud noise accompanied the falling of Bullet, making people feel an indescribable sense of fear. Hado 1 already has this kind of power? Looking at the masterpiece he created, he said silently. Although the Bullet at this time is not as good as Roger and others, but it is already a monster of this level. And Hado, who was only number 1, defeated Bullet easily, and now the strength of Reiatsu in his body is unimaginable. Chapter 131. Not enough. Bullet. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 131. Not enough. Bullet. What's the matter? It's just this level. Descendants of the Devil, Douglas Bullet. Murphy, exuding inexplicable menace all over his body, just stood in front of Bullet lying on the ground, his face full of inexplicable and terrifying expressions. The incomparable figure of Wyan seems to be like a mountain that cannot be crossed. Those calm eyes exuded a majestic and inviolable gaze. How is it possible? I actually lost. Looking at Murphy in front of him, Bullet clenched his teeth and roared almost in a roar. He can't believe it. People of the same age who are obviously no different from her own age, but possess such terrifying power. It seems that the distance between the two is not a 303 level, but countless barriers. How can this be recognized by Bullet, the strongest in the world? His talent is definitely stronger than anyone else. Bullet, who had completely fallen into a strange state, looked extraordinarily terrifying, exuding a strange and suffocating terrible breath all over his body. The strangely colored hockey climbed onto his body again, coupled with that terrifying expression. He was as terrifying as the evil ghosts and Shiras in hell. A terrifying aura gathered on Bullet's body. People can't even open their eyes. The surrounding creatures seemed to feel some extremely terrifying existence, and their hairs stood on their heads involuntarily. Advertisement. The strongest fist. Almost hysterically, Bullet's fist was covered with the terrifying armament hockey, aiming directly at Faye and punching him. Loud noise. Rumble. Not relying on Devil Fruit's abilities, pure armament hockey's power. The ground cracked, the sea roared, and the sky was shaken. To be able to recover hockey so quickly, and even better. As expected of the guy who was called the descendant of the devil. Watching the turbulent waves spread outward, Murphy silently commented. In this situation, Bullet actually broke through the limits of his strength and became stronger again. Although it was only this punch, after Bullet returned to his full state later on, his strength would definitely be closer to monsters of Whitebeard's level. I have to say, maybe this is talent. But it's not enough. Bullet. The result was also obvious that no matter how hard Bullet tried, his strength against Murphy was still nothing more than that. Should probably wake up from the dream, too, Bullet. The voice fell, as if the whole world stopped suddenly. Pooh. Advertisement. The sound that came out was the relentless tearing of a knife into Bullet's stomach. Taking a closer look, Murphy, who was obviously far away from him just now, was standing in front of him at this moment, with a seemingly ordinary knife directly poured into his body. A smear of blood dripped slowly from the corner of Bullet's mouth. Look, I've already hurt you, but you haven't even reacted yet. Looking at the incomprehensible Bullet in front of him, Murphy said coldly. The gap between the two of them cannot be described with an accurate nose at all. But at this moment, suddenly, Bullet stretched out his hand and grabbed Murphy's right hand, and the teeth that were still dripping with blood were directly exposed. I got you. I was wondering just now. Why did my attack have no effect on you at all? What I fought with you just now was not you at all, but a phantom. Bullet, who was still wearing bloodline, said in a bit of a panic. But at this moment, his eyes on Murphy were full of sarcasm and sneer. You bastard. This time it should be a real entity. Phantom. Entity. Forget it, if you have to say that, you can understand it this way. However, my ability is not such a low-level thing. Although Bullet's understanding is not much worse, the actual gap is still quite large. The so-called phantom, this kind of thing is not at the same level as the power of his Kyōka Suigetsu. It doesn't matter what abilities you have. Now I've firmly caught you. Bullet looked at Murphy, who was caught by him in front of him, and the expression on his face didn't change at all because of Murphy's words. It is quite difficult to use words to influence the actions of this type of guy. Advertisement. Grab me. What proof do you have that you're grabbing my entity? By the senses of your arm. Or do you think the pain of the sword in my hand piercing your belly proves it? Bullet, are you too lightweight? Murphy said without haste, leaving aside that Bullet didn't grab his body at all. Even if he did, so what? The strengths of the two are not at the same level. Whether it is a long-distance attack or a close-range combat, Murphy completely crushes Bullet. Try it if you don't believe me. Murphy said relentlessly. Gritting his teeth tightly, Bullet's muscles tensed, and his veins bulged. The merciless plot covered armament hockey's fist and directly blasted him, the strongest fist. Boom. The huge fist hit directly. However, the moment the fist that rolled up the terrible air current hit Murphy's body, it seemed as if it didn't feel a little bit of resistance, and it went straight through. There is no entity. Bullet looked at his body piercing through Murphy, and said these 40.1 words slowly with a dull gaze. If the fist that looks terrifying, and the power with terrifying power, if it can't hit, it will naturally have no meaning. Recognizing your weakness, and weakness is not a bad thing. Only in this way can you become stronger. Chapter 132. Zero Distance Zero. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 132 Zero Distance Zero. Okay. It's about time to bring out the strongest power of your combined fruit. If not, I'm afraid you won't be completely convinced. Lightly pulled out the sword from Bullet's abdomen, Murphy looked at Bullet and reminded him faintly. There's no way the guy can be honest without knocking Bullet out of the place he's most proud of, and Murphy has sort of figured that out. Bastard. Bullet gritted his teeth, feeling quite aggrieved by Murphy's taunt. And in the next second, the figure in front of him suddenly disappeared, and then appeared about 10 meters away from his front. And the wound on his abdomen completely disappeared. Everything just now was just an illusion created by Bullet under the control of Kyōka Suigetsu. Whether it's grabbing Murphy or Murphy's sword piercing his stomach, it's just an illusion. Now it's time to use the entity to fight you. Come on, let me see the power you are proud of. Murphy said indifferently, as if he didn't take Bullet's power seriously. 12. I'll make you regret it. Seeing Murphy's attitude of not paying attention to him at all, Bullet's face became extremely ugly. Boom 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 boom. The whole island began to tremble violently. Not only that, even the boat that the two of them docked beside the island also began to tremble. And its astonishing speed began to change, swallowed and assimilated by the purple fluid. Soon, Bullet was wrapped directly in the center of the sphere. Advertisement. As expected of you, Bullet. Seeing the huge rock titan formed by the transformation of the entire island, Murphy secretly admired it. The huge monster standing in front of him turned out to be formed by an entire small island. Although this island is very small and cannot be as huge as Marineford where the Marine headquarters is located, it is still an island after all. Using an island to form a huge titan really has an indescribable sense of shock. You bastard. Since you defeated Roger, let you witness it. Who is stronger, me or Roger? The extremely manic titan kept slapping the sea surface with his arms, his scarlet eyes looked extremely terrifying and ferocious. Immediately afterwards, the gigantic rock titan stood up directly, and the figure that blocked the sky directly covered the sky, and the sky darkened instantly. Immediately afterwards, the fist of the huge titan that was nearly 100 meters away was directly covered with a layer of terrifying armament hockey. In an instant, an incomparably terrifying wind pressure formed under Bullet's fist. Is it just this level? A strength that makes you proud? Perhaps in the eyes of others, Bullet's power is already quite terrifying, but in Murphy's eyes, that's all. It can only be said that it is only such an evaluation of this degree. If it's just like this, let me be completely defeated, and then surrender at my feet. Call. The air is lifted. Bullet didn't care about what Murphy said, the huge exaggerated fist pressed down fiercely in Murphy's direction at an astonishing speed. Advertisement. That eclipses the scene, carrying the monstrous rocky fist of the fearsome armament hockey. Bullet sitting in the control room had bloodshot eyes, and his willpower was terrifyingly tenacious. Now he has only one idea. That is the strongest in the world. But Murphy stretched out his hand without prejudice. Zero distance Sero. Above Murphy's finger, a blue Reiatsu lighted up, gathering at the tip of Murphy's finger. And the moment the gigantic rock fist reached Murphy, Sero was completely done. A crisp voice sounded. What? Bullet looked at the huge rock arm in disbelief. The moment the huge arm collided with the almost invisible Murphy, his rock fist covering armament hockey was directly thrown from broken in the middle. It turned into pieces of rubble that kept falling down. Boom 1. In the next second, a boom sounded. The Sero in Murphy's hand erupted directly, covering the huge rock titan directly. The huge and cumbersome body had no chance to dodge at all. Almost instantly, Sero's range directly included the entire rock titan. The terrifyingly huge body collapsed in an instant, scattered and fell towards the surroundings, the flames scattered, and the falling huge stones entered the sea, causing waves of terrifying waves. Advertisement. And Bullet was also among them, but Bullet didn't fall directly, but directly stepped on a huge gravel in the air, and jumped up into the sky. You'd better go down and wake up a little bit before talking. However, at this moment, Murphy suddenly appeared in front of Bullet. An ordinary-looking knife in his hand aimed directly at Bullet's chest and slashed down. 453. From the bottom of the shoulders to the chest to the abdomen, a long bloody trace appeared instantly. The bullet then fell straight down to the ocean floor below. Rumble. With the fall of Bullet, countless falling rocks directly covered his whole body, and he was completely buried in it. Accompanied by deafening roars, huge smoke and dust floated up like a mushroom cloud. Huge waves of hundreds of meters surged into the sky, roaring crazily. The indescribable shock was jaw-dropping. An entire island shattered and then fell into the sea, which is almost an unimaginable scene for human beings. However, at this time, it really happened in front of him. Is it a little too much? Seeing the terrifying scene in front of him, Murphy thought faintly. Chapter 133 Bullet Surrender. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 133 Bullet Surrender. Forget it, it's impossible for a man like that to die that easily. If he really died like this, it means that Bullet is nothing more than that. Soon, Murphy also felt indifferent. After all, that guy was Bullet. Although he had demon fruit power and was seriously injured by himself, it would be a bit disappointing if he died just like that. But it's not enough to soak that guy in the water like this, it's better to get him out. Thinking of this, Reiatsu, who directly manipulated himself, formed a chain, rushed directly towards the direction of Bullet below, and soon found Bullet, who was pressed down by countless boulders, and pulled him up from inside. Ahem. Drenched in blood, he was seriously injured by Murphy at first, and then he was crushed by so many boulders. At this time, Bullet also looked a little miserable, with a very pale face. Oh, are you still conscious? Hearing Bullet's cough, Murphy gave Bullet a slightly surprised look. Suffering heavy injuries one after another, Bullet did not expect that he could not maintain consciousness. However, with the bruised nose and swollen face, Bullet's previous appearance could not be seen at all. Opening the swollen eyes that were already full of blood, looking at Murphy, who was still relaxed for a year, and even after the battle, there is no dust on his body, his eyes are full of disbelief. Advertisement. Some weakly muttered to himself. How is it possible? The distance in this world shouldn't be that big. He didn't want to believe what happened here. You must know that even Pluton Rayleigh, the deputy captain of the Roger Pirates, is only tied with him, and even Roger, the Pirate King, cannot easily defeat him. However, Murphy was so relaxed at this time, and it could even be said that he was crushed effortlessly, which made Bullet's heart drop quite a bit. And it was the opponent who allowed him to attack, and easily defeated the power he was most proud of. A huge gap that makes people fall into despair. No, that's the truth, the gap is really that big. Can't you see such an obvious thing? Bullet. Murphy's sharp eyes were on Bullet's body, the bloody fact and the countless wounds on Bullet's body had clearly shown all of this. Give up your unrealistic thoughts and follow in my footsteps. In this way, I can give you more strength and let you clearly see how to become stronger. Then, you will be able to understand when the time comes, what is an insurmountable chasm. Murphy's words reached Bullet's ears clearly. Under the extremely weak condition, Bullet's psychological defense line was also loosened. How? Have you decided? Continue to be a frog in a well, or follow me to witness what is a stronger path. Murphy's words made Bullet's heart skip a beat. If he could possess such power, what would he have to be afraid of? Bullet is also very curious about the path that Murphy said can make him stronger. Advertisement. Also so young, Murphy must have mastered some other way to become so strong. That should be a completely different style from Haki Taijutsu. I'm a pirate. You're Marine, isn't it ridiculous to want me to join Marine? But even so, Bullet still replied stubbornly. He is a pirate with a bounty on offer, no matter how he thinks about it, it is impossible for him to follow a Marine. Even if he wanted to, Murphy would. But it's just a Marine Admiral, and it doesn't have such a big right to do this kind of thing. After all, this is a matter of directly slapping Marine and the government in the face, and Marine Admiral dare not mess around. Hearing Bullet's worry, Murphy smiled lightly and said, "Pirates. If it's just this kind of problem, then it's already been resolved. Tomorrow you will probably be the first pirate whose bounty order has been cancelled." Clatter. As if it was very suitable for the occasion, just as Murphy's words fell, a wave of waves surged directly. For Bullet, Murphy's words were indeed like a sudden surge of the ocean. Bounty order cancelled. Perhaps, this matter is an unimaginable good thing for many pirates. What does it mean when the bounty offer is cancelled? It means that I don't have to worry about being plotted against by bounty hunters, and I don't have to be hunted down by Marines everywhere, and I can act in some places openly. Hanging around with a bunch of pirates all the time is pretty scary for 90% of people. Advertisement. There is absolutely no reason to fight and kill, and if there is no reward, they can feel a little more at ease like ordinary people. The benefits here are simply unimaginable. 18. How could such a thing be agreed to? Quote. These are for you. After that, just go find the Hunter Guild and join. The position of the Vice President of the Hunter Guild has been prepared for you. Quote. While talking, Murphy took out 8 pieces of hogyoku and threw them in front of Bullet casually, like throwing away trash. As for the function of these hogyoku fragments, Red Earl Rider will teach you. Lonely Rider. Is that guy also a member of the Hunters Guild? Bullet's eyes widened at Murphy's words. Since a long time ago, the news of Rider has completely disappeared in the sea, the money is good, and no one knows where the lonely Red Earl has gone. Unexpectedly, the other party was actually in the Hunters Guild, standing directly under Marine's eyelids without being noticed. Hearing Rider's news, he believed that Murphy could revoke his reward order. What's more, it seems that tomorrow morning, the matter about his reward order being revoked may not be hidden. Chapter 134 Naval Headquarters Response. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 134 Naval Headquarters Response. In this way, the time soon came to the second day. The fact that Bullet was ordered by the world government to cancel the bounty offer also spread throughout the sea in an instant. The speed was so fast that even Marine didn't have time to react. Obviously, the help of celestial dragons is indispensable for this. After all, this is related to the core interests of these celestial dragons. The power of immortality, for them, can completely trample on all rules. Naval Headquarters. Inside Kong's office. At this moment, Kong looked at the belated news with an extraordinarily heavy and solemn expression. The government directly bypassed their Marine and forcibly erased all the crimes of a pirate, without even discussing with Marine. After the newspapers were sent out, their Marine suddenly got this advertisement. There is no room for it, it must be implemented, it is not a discussion, let alone an inquiry, it is a simple order. For Kong, this is something unprecedented in 360. Especially their Marine may even know the news later than other people who got the newspaper in the first place, which made Kong couldn't help but have a blue vein. Although it is said that the government has always done things in a mysterious manner, but it is really the first time to ignore them to this extent. Of course, let alone Kong, even the 5 elders got the news relatively late. Because all of this was completely done by the owners of the celestial dragons directly using their own power, bypassing all so-called power agencies, and trampling on all rules. Such an act of trampling on everything, apart from celestial dragons, no one else could do it. Even the 5 elders would definitely tell Kong before doing something like this. I have to say that the celestial dragons are indeed a bunch of unreasonable guys. But no matter how you say it, they are the most embarrassing group of people from the position of Marine. The bounty order issued by him was directly cancelled by his immediate boss, and even all the crimes of a certain pirate were erased. To be honest, neither Kong nor anyone else will accept this reality, right? Advertisement. But helplessly, newspapers have been sent to all over the world, and this matter is requested by the celestial dragons, and there is no room for them to refute. And when Murphy received the notification, it was already the afternoon of the day. I have to say that the power of the celestial dragons is indeed terrifying. No matter how upset or unwilling Kong is, under the power of the celestial dragons, Marine must make concessions on this matter. It can even be said to be a total compromise. Of course, Murphy was quite happy to see this. Sure enough, it's a good thing to control those so-called nobles. There are still a few days left in the holiday, and I have the opportunity to meet Ace. Maybe I can use this excuse to tell Kong that I want to go and relax. Not bad. Murphy thought secretly. It's normal for a young and vigorous Marine Admiral to be a bit uncomfortable with this kind of thing happening to Marine at this time. But he found that he was powerless to stop him, so he could only ask the Marshal to go out for a while to relax. Isn't this a good excuse? Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth can't help but rise. Although it is said that Murphy has not met Ace since he was born, but there is a very good BCDE news from the Hunters Guild recently, so he plans to find a chance to meet Ace. And this time the celestial dragons intervened just to give him such an excuse to meet Ace. Thinking of this, Murphy took out his phone bug and called Kong. Marshal Kong, I already know what happened today. I have already arranged the specific operation content. Murphy spoke to Kong with a very flat tone. Advertisement. However, from Kong's sound, it almost means that Sinfei is angry because of this incident. Sure enough. Sorry, Murphy, to be honest, I only found out about this matter this morning, and the attitude of the government. Marshal Kong, You don't have to blame yourself too much. If Marine really has a way to stop this, I believe you will definitely prevent this from happening. Oh, it's good that you can understand. Hearing Murphy's comforting words, Kong also sighed helplessly. By the way, Marshal Kong, I'm going to take some time off for a rest. I'm sorry, I'm going to trouble you a little bit with the affairs of the headquarters recently. Speaking of this, Murphy's tone also has a trace of apology. As if he felt embarrassed for bothering Kong. Hey, it's okay, you can go out and take a rest. To be honest, it's the first time that we old fritters have encountered this kind of situation. Don't worry, we old guys won't be hit by this incident. On the contrary, when you go out to relax during this period of time, you should be a little more open. Sure enough, Kong naturally thought that Murphy was affected by the actions of the world government this time, so it would take some time to adjust, so he generously agreed to Murphy's request, and comforted Murphy to let him look away. If Kong knew that the mastermind behind this matter was Murphy himself, I don't know what kind of expression he would have. Of course, Murphy naturally didn't know what kind of expression he would have, and besides, Kong wouldn't know about it either. At least, at this stage, I don't know about it. Chapter 135 First Meeting Ace. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 135 First Meeting Ace. In this way, time flies. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. Early morning. Under the sunshine, an unremarkable boat is slowly heading towards the direction of Windmill Town. There is no doubt that this is the crime of rushing here after giving Kong a leave of absence. Mara fruit, and this Ryujin Jaka, I hope you won't let me down, son of One Piece, Gordy. Ace. The guy Murphy had hoped for before he was even born. Mara fruit and Ryujin Jaka. The result of the interweaving of demonic and imaginary powers made Murphy quite curious. And both Ace and Roger are quite terrifying in terms of talent. In order to protect his son, Roger, who became the sword spirit of Ryujin Jaka, has been practicing hard for 10 years. I wonder if the talents and strengths of the two father and son can reproduce a real Ryujin Jaka. Although this knife is not the same as the captain's, you must know that there is a whole Hogyoku inside this knife. Coupled with the unique devil fruit in this world, and the Mara fruit ability that is quite compatible with Ryujin Jaka's ability, Murphy is still looking forward to how far Ace can play. Advertisement. At least, it definitely won't be as easy to get caught by a Blackbeard as in the original book. Of course, whether it's Blackbeard or some at war, it doesn't matter to Murphy, and he is just a passing fruit to this world. What he needs is to pursue stronger power. As for destroying wars that may arise in the future, if it is for his own experiments and strength, Murphy will naturally not hesitate at all. If Ace can make good use of the ability of this Ryujin Jaka, it will be really useful for him. Instead of being used as a bait to start a war. What's more, it's a war that Murphy doesn't have much to gain from. He only does what is in his own interest, as simple as that. Soon, Murphy arrived in Windmill Town. After all, Murphy has been a Marine Admiral for quite a long time, and there is a proud man like Garp in Windmill Town, so many people know that Marine Admiral. Also recognize Murphy's looks. After revealing his identity as Marine Admiral and stating that he came to see Garp's grandson, under the guidance of the villagers, Murphy quickly found the house of the bandit Dayton behind Windmill Town. As soon as he walked in, Murphy saw that Ace was being tied up in the room at this time, and Dayton had disappeared without a trace. But Murphy didn't see Luffy's figure, and he didn't know if he wasn't here, or Garp hadn't sent Luffy here yet. Without thinking too much, Murphy prepared to walk into the house without caring at all. Who is outside? And the moment Murphy just lifted his foot, Ace inside suddenly shouted out very vigilantly. Advertisement. Although Murphy didn't have any defenses, and didn't have any thoughts of hiding his footsteps, but it was not something ordinary people could do to spot his traces so keenly at the first time. As expected of that guy's son. An observation hockey of this extraordinary talent level. While talking, Murphy walked in here on his own. But after hearing Murphy's words, Ace's eyes widened suddenly. Son. Obviously, the son in Murphy's mouth definitely refers to himself. In other words, the man in front of him knew his father. Wait, do you know who my father is? Tell me, who is that guy? Ace asked excitedly. Neither Dayton nor Garp had ever told him the answer before. Now that he finally has someone who seems to know something, Ace is naturally quite excited. Oh, don't you know? It seems that Vice Admiral Garp doesn't want you to know about it yet, said Ace Murphy, who glanced at such a young man. It seems that Garp thought Ace was too young, so he didn't tell him who his biological father was. Ask for flowers. It should take a while. After Ace is a little older, Garp will tell him the truth. Don't talk nonsense. Tell me directly, who is my father? Advertisement. Soon, Ace also showed a rather impatient expression. Almost all children of this age are like this, impatient. Of course, Murphy didn't bother to argue with Ace, and replied directly, I escaped from here. I will wait for you in the back mountain. If I can escape and find me alone before 12 o'clock tonight, I will tell you something. Quote. After leaving such words, Murphy left here without the slightest hesitation. Hey, wait, you haven't said where the back mountain will be after I escape. Ace's voice seemed a little anxious. Even if you search for a place as big as the back mountain, you may not be able to find it all for 3 days. It would be difficult for him to find the corresponding place before 12 o'clock tonight. What's more, he is still tied up now. But Murphy didn't seem to hear Ace's words, and left Dayton's room without looking back, and went out. Soon, it completely disappeared in the distance of Ace's eyes. Damn it, I can only find it by myself. Seeing Murphy's attitude, Ace also understood that this was a test for him. Although he didn't know what to do, Ace is not a person who will give up easily. After finally having the opportunity to understand his own life experience, he will never give up, and he must succeed. Isn't it just a back mountain? I have to find you out tonight. Thinking of this, Ace said viciously. Chapter 136, Elementalization. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 136 Elementalization. That night, when it was almost 11 o'clock, in front of Murphy, a little guy who looked a bit tired stood in front of him. But at this time, Ace was not too embarrassed, and he didn't look like he was crazily climbing mountains and mountains. It's just a feeling of losing strength after sprinting with all your strength. Without any hesitation or thought of going the wrong way, did you just find me with your intuition after escaping from Dayton? That's right. It's impossible to search for such a big mountain in less than 2 days. So I can only rely on my intuition to find people. Ace didn't refute, and replied a little out of breath. If his instincts had been wrong, he would have been, 433, unable to find Murphy today. Fortunately, Ace's instincts are always accurate, and this time is no exception. Okay, now you can tell me what's going on. Although he said he was very tired, Ace didn't care about it at all, he just wanted to know about his life experience very urgently. However, Murphy did not rush to tell him about Ace's life experience, but first handed the Mara Mara fruit and the Ryujin Jaka in his hand to Ace. Advertisement. This is. Looking at the two things that Murphy handed to him, Ace looked at this strange devil fruit and another knife that looked a bit quaint but was different at first glance. Knives are a little easier to understand, but devil fruit is something that Ace of this age has never even heard of. Devil fruit. After eating, you can get some superpowers. Devil fruit is divided into 3 categories: Paramesha devil fruit, Logia devil fruit, Zone devil fruit. Although devil fruit can give the eater powerful abilities, the side effect is that they cannot swim. The ability of devil fruit depends on the strength of the ability user. The usual scabbard says the minimum value is 100 million Baileys, but now, the devil fruit in front of you is the rarest of the 3 devil fruits, so it's a devil fruit. Logia's devil fruit. Although it is not clear what Logia is, the minimum value of 100 million Baileys is simply unbelievable for Ace. And it's one of the rarest of the bunch. What do you mean by giving me these? I don't have the money to buy these things, not to mention I don't know how much this thing is worth, maybe it's just an ordinary fruit. Ace turned his head in disbelief. He didn't believe Murphy's words so naively, but treated Murphy as a liar who swindled money. Of course, Ace's intuition told him that Murphy wasn't lying. You don't need to pay, eat the devil fruit, and I will tell you your life experience. Murphy said. No money. Ace frowned and asked in disbelief. Advertisement. To be honest, he doesn't trust the things given by such an inexplicable person, but the other party seems to know his parents, and he feels very comfortable, not like a bad person. In addition, he urgently wants to know his own life experience. Cut. Anyway, there is nothing worthy of your plot on me. If you want to kill me, Dayton has already killed me. I will trust you once. Speaking of this, he glanced at the A fruit with strange patterns. Ace swallowed the devil fruit in one gulp. Ouch, what the hell is this? It's so unpalatable. Just after taking a bite, Ace couldn't stand the taste at all, so he vomited it out on the spot. Brush. And at this moment, an extremely dangerous feeling rushed into Ace's heart. Before he could react, Ace only felt a burst of knife light flashing across his waist. Am I dying? That was the first feeling that popped into Ace's mind. Immediately afterwards, he only felt that his upper body suddenly lost the strength to support him, and then fell straight down. Cut in half. Ace, who fell on the ground, stared at Murphy's direction, and didn't understand why Murphy, who was so gentle just now, would suddenly kill him. Not even any reason. Advertisement. How long do you want to pretend to be dead? After eating devil fruit, you should be able to feel the changes in your body. Just as Ace was thinking this way, Murphy suddenly turned around and looked at the fallen body. Ace said, "Playing dead? What are you talking about? I was cut in half by you. I'm about to die," Ace shouted excitedly. But Murphy replied flatly, as if nothing happened, "I have never seen a person who was cut in half still have such strength to speak." Huh. Hearing Murphy's words, Ace suddenly realized the problem. It was obvious that he had been cut in half, but he didn't feel pain, nor did he feel that he was about to die. Immediately afterwards, Ace, as if he suddenly understood what had happened to his body, began to manipulate his body into a flame, and then slowly reunited his upper body and lower body. My body turned into a flame. Seeing his own body, Ace couldn't believe it. Then, with great interest, he began to manipulate his body into flames. This is Logia's elemental ability. Ordinary physical attacks have no effect on you at all. Ignore 5.3 physical attacks at all. Doesn't it mean that I am invincible unless I use seawater? This is devil fruit. After hearing what Murphy said, Ace said very excitedly. Although he didn't know much about the concept of devil fruit before, but after understanding the horror of elementalization, Ace understood how powerful devil fruit is. Chapter 137. 20 months. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 137. 20 months. Boom. But just when Ace was happy with his ability, Murphy kicked Ace in the abdomen directly, kicking him out without mercy. It hurts. Damn it, it hurts. Ace, who was kicked away, immediately felt a pain in his abdomen like a mountain of knives in a sea of fire. Damn it. What on earth do you want? Ace clutched his stomach and looked at Murphy with a very unhappy face. First cut in half, and now he kicked him so hard that he felt like his intestines were about to be kicked, and Ace couldn't figure out what Murphy was trying to do. Elementalization is not invincible. There are many simple and crude ways to break elementalization. I used Reiatsu just now. If you hold the idea that Logia is invincible, you will die. Murphy was not in a hurry. Speaking of Reiatsu, is this the power 12 that just attacked me? Ace's eyes flashed a strange brilliance. In addition to Reiatsu, there is also a power called Haki that can also attack Logia. In this world, your grandfather is one of the strongest people trained by Haki. Advertisement. Hey, added. Garp. The old man. Hearing this name, Ace's eyes widened immediately. That old man, who usually looks a little violent, but also very incomprehensible, is actually one of the strongest people in the world. But thinking of how Garp usually treats him, Ace still looks disgusted. It seems that you are not very interested in Haki. The sword in your hand will teach you how to use Reiatsu. Seeing Ace's expression, Murphy smiled. There was no problem with my guess. A sword. Ace glanced at the simple-looking sword in his hand, wondering what he was thinking. From the moment he holds the sword, Ace can feel as if the sword is naturally suitable for him, and even has a feeling of being connected by blood. Although it was just a feeling, Ace believed in his intuition very much. Okay, the things have been given to you, now let me tell you about your life experience. Just glanced at Ace and the sword in Ace's hand, Murphy didn't say much. With Ace's strength at this stage, it is natural that there is no way to get in touch with the sword spirit, even if Roger has taken the initiative to help Ace, but after all, it is the user who dominates the sword, not the retreat. So Roger can only help his own son from the sidelines. My life experience. Hearing Murphy talk about his life experience, Ace's reaction was obviously a little calmer than that of Steel. Advertisement. After this series of events, he has already felt that his life experience is definitely not simple, and it is very likely that it is a very painful thing for him. However, after waiting for so long, Ace still wants to know what the truth is, even though he knows it may not be easy. Let's start with your mother. Your mother's name is Portgas de Rouge, and she has a sparrow like you, Madara. But as soon as Murphy spoke, Ace couldn't help but said, "Wait. My mother and I have the same surname. Shouldn't it be the same surname as my father?" Indeed, normally speaking, Ace's real name should be the same as his father's surname. But Murphy didn't pay attention to Ace's words, but continued to say, "You are different from ordinary children. Generally speaking, newborns are born in October, but, due to some special reasons, in order to allow you to survive, your mother made an unimaginable decision. Portgas de Rouge. This woman kept you in his womb for 20 months before she gave birth to you, only in the belief that she wanted you to live. In 10 I endured unimaginable pain for a few months, and I still can't let anyone see the problem." Hearing this, Ace was completely stunned. He never thought that his mother would do such a thing. Pregnancy in October. Ace still has this kind of common sense. He has also seen how painful it is for some pregnant women who are about to give birth. And his mother endured such pain for 10 months. This bizarre and unbelievable thing made Ace couldn't believe his ears. It is also because of this incident that your mother was completely exhausted when you were born, and then died unfortunately, and handed you over to Garp to raise you. 11. Advertisement. Having said that, Ace has completely fallen silent at this time. Where is my father? Why is my father not by my mother's side? Ace clenched his fists tightly. Even though he only heard about it from Murphy, even Ace hadn't even seen his own mother, but it didn't affect his inner anger in the slightest. Your father's name is Gal D. Roger. Murphy said the name without haste. Hearing this name, Ace's body trembled involuntarily. Gal D. Roger. For people living in this era, it is absolutely impossible not to know a name. One Piece Roger. The man who created this era is known as the existence of One Piece. Now you know why your mother spent so much energy and took 20 months to give birth to you, right? The blood of Roger the Pirate King shouldn't have stayed in this world, it's just that the woman used it to make you unbelievable ways to force your birth into this world. Afterwards, what you choose is your own business. I have given you the method of becoming stronger. Pirates, hunters, marines, or just live a simple life as an ordinary person. It's all your freedom. Chapter 138. Golden City. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 138 Golden City. Of course, Murphy just told Ace about these things, and gave the things to Ace, and then left directly. Although Murphy is very interested in and will pay attention to Ace's growth in the future, he will not interfere. With the Ace thing sorted out, Murphy went straight back to Naval Headquarters. After all, he is different from ordinary admiral, and he also serves as the general staff of Naval Headquarters. Of course, even though Murphy was guarding Naval Headquarters as admiral, Sengoku still stayed in the headquarters and did not leave. According to common sense, two admirals are basically not stationed in the same place. But now Sengoku is not just as simple as Marine Admiral. With Kong's gradual decentralization, now Sengoku has accepted most of the work of Marine Admiral. I am afraid that it will not be long, or a suitable opportunity, Sengoku will be promoted to Marine Marshal's position. So Sengoku naturally couldn't just wander around. Of course, it didn't matter to Murphy. The hollow experiment under the Hunters Guild has also stabilized, and a huge space has been opened up under the Sabayati Archipelago, which contains at least 5,000 Jillian level drama animals. Advertisement. Now these Manos Grandes are all under the control of the Red Earl. After all, Golden Lion's strength is almost crushing the Red Earl. Without the corresponding strength, the two of them can't form a check. Of course, with so many years, the three monsters Sakazuki, Pelusolino, and Kuzan have also grown up. Possesses the same power as a monster, although everyone has a different personality, it is not easy to get along with each other. But one thing that cannot be denied is that although these people are not easy to get along with, they are not liked by many people in the sea room. However, No one can deny the monster-like strength of the three of them, and all three are hot candidates for the next Marine Admiral. Of course, in addition to these three, there are also Momosuke and T-Dolphins who also possess almost overwhelming power. But compared to the three Logia monsters, these two are slightly inferior. Of course, the best voices for Admiral are Sakazuki and Pelusolino. Not because Kuzan played worse than both, just because Marine Admiral only has 2 slots. And it happened that Sakazuki and Pelusolino were the elite camp students at the same time as Murphy, and Kuzan was the junior of these three. If there is one less person, they are all qualified in terms of strength. But in the case of the same strength, in terms of seniority and Marine's overall peace of mind, it is natural that Sakazuki and Pelusolino are suitable. Advertisement. After all, if it is a junior, there is a high probability that there will be no major problems. But if Kuzan, who was a junior, turned into Admiral, and one of Pelusolino and Sakazuki failed to be selected, it is inevitable that the two will be a little unconvinced. So in the end, the biggest possibility is that these two people who were in the same period as Murphy will become Marine Admiral. Of course, this is under the premise that no accidents have occurred. If someone suddenly makes a big mistake, or Kuzan catches a particularly important big pirate, that's a different story. At least for now, it seems that Sakazuki and Pelusolino have the upper hand. In this way, time passed slowly, and Murphy was dealing with some things every day at the Marine headquarters, just like clocking in at work. There was nothing special, nor did he do anything earth-shattering. It's just that under Murphy's arrangement, everything in Marine has become orderly and is developing steadily. There is no one complaining about the badness of Marine or anything like that. Of course, the most important thing is the development of the Hunters Guild. Although it is said that 18 Hogyoku fragments are prepared for the heads of celestial dragons, the number of celestial dragons is not just those 18 people. As the effect of Hogyoku spread in the circle of celestial dragons, other celestial dragons were also eyeing this big piece of fat. Obviously, there were quite a few celestial dragons who wanted to plunder by force, but after being taught a few lessons by the Golden Lion and scolded by the owners of the celestial dragons when they returned, such people disappeared completely. Advertisement. At the same time, the 2 requests that Golden Lion asked celestial dragons at the beginning were also fulfilled. Needless to say, the first one is the cancellation of the bullet reward order. And the second thing is to support the industry of Stella, a golden fruit capable person. Now, with the Hunter Guild as the core, there are 3 most terrifying neutral organizations in the world. The first to bear the brunt is undoubtedly the Hunter Guild, which is located in the lawless area of the Sabayati archipelago, where the Golden Lion sits. In the continuous development of these years, the number of registered hunters in the Hunter Guild has also exceeded 100,000. It is almost a group that can fight the Marine head on great power. The second one is guarded by the vice president of the Hunters Guild. It is located on the Fishmen Island, the World Economic News Agency. As the largest news organization in the world, the World Economic News Agency is unquestionable in terms of intelligence capabilities and influence. And the third organization is also the Golden City on the Sea, which is also ruled by the vice president of the Hunter Guild, the former pirate Douglas Bullet, and the owner of the Golden City is Stella, who is a golden fruit capable person. It is worth mentioning that the Golden City built by Stella now controls 70% of the cash flow in the entire world. After all, with the pervert devil fruit ability of golden fruit, there is a strong backing like the Hunter Guild and the information and propaganda of the World Economic News Agency. Coupled with the full support of the previous deal with celestial dragons. Stella's superior conditions are not comparable to the Golden Emperor in the original book. Chapter 139. Slave Riot. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 139 Slave Riot. It is no exaggeration to say that the Golden City in Stella's hands has become the most important organization in the world. If Stella falls, the order of the entire world will collapse instantly. Its influence is many times greater than that of the Hunters Guild and the World Economic News Agency. Even if the world government wants to do something, the first consideration now is not the combat effectiveness of the Hunter Guild, but how to deal with the economic pressure from Stella's Golden City. Even now, many of the Marines' military expenditures and the salaries of world government officials depend on Stella. With such a huge economy, If it is not for the 5 elders and celestial dragons to decide on the surface, I am afraid that the Golden City is about to become a reality. Real government. This is probably the power of capital. While the 3 organizations Murphy conceived in his mind that could be moved to the world government were gradually taking shape, the number of times Murphy did his work on the sea also gradually decreased. And during this period of time, there will always be a lot of new things on the sea, and occasionally even cause a sensation in the whole world. But basically none of the influence is scary enough. 103. However, such a group continued until a certain day. Mariajoy. A raging fire engulfed that magnificent place. Advertisement. Slave riot. Murphy said lightly, watching the situation on Mariajoy's side from afar. For this group of celestial dragons, he doesn't have any good feelings, so naturally he can't say anything. General Staff, the Marine is doing all it can to put out the fire. So far, no celestial dragons have been injured, but all the slaves have escaped. A Marine soldier rushed forward and reported to Heifei. Slave. I seem to remember that the world government has already abolished slavery, right? Murphy turned around and looked at the Marine soldier and asked indifferently. Indeed. The world government has already issued a statement to abolish slavery, but celestial dragons is the only exception. As a comparison between celestial dragons, slaves are a very important part. And the so-called laws of the world government want to have an effect on celestial dragons is simply wishful thinking. So even if the world government expressly prohibits extension, BCCE, Wulong people still have a huge number of slaves. But as far as Marine is concerned, they naturally cannot put this matter on the bright side. But what the Marine soldier didn't expect was that Murphy was still emphasizing this point at this time. But what Murphy said next made the Marine soldier understand what he meant. Since there are no slaves, there is no slave riot. So here in Mariajoy, it was just a vile arson case maliciously controlled by a certain person. Tell Sakazuki and the others to catch the mastermind. Although Murphy's words were quite covert, but this Marine soldier had been working in the staff for a long time, so he could understand the implication of Murphy's words. Since there are no slaves, why does Marine catch slaves? All they need to catch is the mastermind behind the arson. Advertisement. General Staff, I understand. I will immediately notify Sakazuki, Pelusolino and Kuzan Vice Admiral. Saluted to Murphy, the Marine soldier ran out immediately. But just now, he ran 2 steps, and suddenly the soldier stopped and added, "That's right. General Staff, His Excellency 5 elders asked you to go over." Of course, the final result has not changed in any way. The Murloc adventurer Tiger climbed up the red line alone and liberated the enslaved Murlocs. By the time Sakazuki and the others arrived, Tiger had already taken advantage of the confusion and left. When it finally got there, Kuzan was a little bit useful and put out the Mariajoy fire. And this incident also reminded you, Mariajoy, that the security of the guards here needs to be improved. About a few days, almost all of Marine's senior generals have gathered to the headquarters, the last ones being Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral and the Branch Vice Admiral. Except for those of the older generation, almost all of these people have a common characteristic, that is, they were born in the elite camp. Especially the first 5 students of the elite camp. Among them, the first batch of students accounted for nearly half of them. Although so many Marine generals have returned to Naval Headquarters, there are not many pirates who dare to make some small moves at will. The reason is also obvious. Marine obviously made a major adjustment in doing so. If he shows up at this time, 100% of Marine will regard him as an early bird and kill him directly. So even if these generals were called back to the headquarters, none of them dared to attack Marine's base. Advertisement. And Murphy also put down his work and went to wait near the military port in advance. Burning Volcano. Mole, Doberman, Sakazuki, Pelusolino. Soon, these familiar people appeared in front of Murphy. These people are the first batch of members of the elite battalion, and now all of them have been mixed up with the position of Marine Vice Admiral. They're all here. Seeing everyone, Murphy went up to greet them very kindly. I didn't expect Admiral to pick us up in person. I'm really flattered. Seeing that it was Murphy walking over, everyone smiled involuntarily. Although Murphy is already a Marine Admiral, he is still that gentle guy in their mind. Of course, I came to see you as a friend. Murphy didn't explain much, since he came here, he definitely didn't come here as a Marine Admiral. After all, a Marine Admiral put down his body and ran here to pick someone up. Let's go. It's not easy to call so many people back this time. Saying this, Murphy glanced at Pelusolino and Sakazuki beside him with a half-smile. Chapter 140 Marine Changes. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 140 Marine Changes. No one present was an idiot, and almost everyone could understand what Murphy was implying. Moreover, in fact, almost all of them had already had certain guesses before they came here. What happened in Mariajoy before has already been a reminder to the world government, and now the world government is also trying to strengthen the defense here. Although Celestial Dragons is protected by the strongest shield, like the last time they encountered danger, the strongest shield was firmly bound next to the owner of Celestial Dragons, and they would never leave a step. Let alone go out and catch criminals. Therefore, strengthening the basic defense of Mariajoy can't count on the combat power of the strongest shield at all. In other words, Marine is about to get promoted. If it is about promotion, then there is no doubt that it is the candidate for Navy Admiral. In other words, 9 times out of 10 this meeting is an important moment related to the next Marine Admiral candidates. Advertisement. Let's go. Everyone is here, don't waste time here. Murphy said. He didn't say too many things, after all, some things don't need to be said clearly. Now he can basically be promoted to Admiral by Sakazuki and Pelusolino, but he is just analyzing it. And the others did not mention this matter quite tacitly. After all, everyone didn't want to embarrass Murphy, knowing that such things should not be talked about nonsense. Speaking of which, Murphy, you really haven't changed at all. After so many years, you are still the same 20 years old. Pelusolino, with a cigarette in his mouth, looked at Murphy enviously. People of his age already have more and more wrinkles on his face, and he is the oldest one in the first elite camp, so he started to have wrinkles even though he was in the middle. Although the others said they were not as old as him, they were still middle-aged. Coupled with years of hard fighting, they naturally gradually looked old. And what about Murphy? There is no change at all. It's okay. After all, I have dealt with the Hunter Guild a lot, and I got a piece of Hogyoku from them. Murphy replied with a smile. Now the fragment of Hogyoku is no secret, and even many powerful hunters recruited by Golden Lion later have obtained a fragment of Hogyoku. Of course, those who can complete tasks of this level are also in the minority in the Hunters Guild, and their strength is quite top-notch. Even Marine Vice Admiral may not be able to complete tasks of this level. Advertisement. A fragment of Hogyoku. I heard that it's quite difficult to obtain, otherwise Celestial Dragons wouldn't be such a headache. Sakazuki also said while crossing his chest. Although they are strong enough, and the Hunter Guild doesn't mind Marine coming here to accept the mission, but the timing is always not right. There are very few A-level missions in the Hunter Guild now. Basically, they were snatched away as soon as they came out. Over the years, there have been less than 20 A-level missions in total. And most of it was snatched up in an instant by the agents placed here by Celestial Dragons. After all, Murphy only gave one Celestial Dragons owner at the beginning, and the Celestial Dragons group is so huge, just this little bit can't satisfy the appetite of Celestial Dragons at all. Over the years, only 10 Hogyoku shards have been collected by the Celestial Dragons. As Marines, Sakazuki, Pelusolino, and others have the strength to do this kind of task, but they have no chance to get this kind of task. After all, as Marines and Vice Admirals, their time is not so leisurely, and Garp is the only one who is so leisurely. In the future, there will be opportunities to get them. Anyway, you also have the strength, but you haven't encountered opportunities yet. Murphy said with a smile. And everyone else nodded, agreeing with Murphy. Indeed, it is not difficult for them to play missions, the difficulty lies in meeting the right opportunity. Asking for flowers. But sooner or later there will be such a thing as opportunity. Advertisement. Soon, the Hall of Naval Headquarters was already full of Marine generals who came from various places. These generals can be said to be the existence of famous towns in various places in the world. And the row at the front are Murphy, Sengoku, Zephyr, Garp, Crane and others. On the right side of them are young and powerful representatives headed by Sakazuki, Pelusolino, Kuzan and others. On the left is the veteran Marine Vice Admiral, who are basically in their 50s and have devoted most of their lives to Marine. Most of them are the souls of a branch. After almost everyone was seated, Kong slowly walked out from the door next to him, stood in front of everyone and sat down. 0. Ahem. I think everyone knows what happened in Mariajoy not long ago, so we have to adjust accordingly. Kong said. At this time, no one spoke. Everyone sitting here is not supported by Kong, and some are partners with Kong at the same time. They have been Marine marshals for so many years, and everything Kong does is for Marine. There is no doubt that Kong's contribution to Marine is indelible. Although he has to accept some things because of this position, no one will think that Kong is voluntary. He has always been work for the Marine and work hard for justice. After a while, Kong said slowly, I'm not too young anymore, it's time to give way to you young people. Chapter 141 Kong's Plan. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 141 Kong's Plan. This time the government meeting has decided to promote me to the commander-in-chief of the entire army, and Sengoku will take my place. Zephyr Admiral will also take this opportunity to completely retire from Admiral's position and devote himself to teaching the students of the elite battalion. After Kong finished speaking, he glanced at Sengoku. Immediately after Sengoku also stood up, Kong walked down from the top and sat down on Sengoku's position just now. Sengoku, on the other hand, went straight ahead of everyone. This move has completely made it clear that Kong is really going to leave the position of Marshal of the Marine, completely away from the front line. And Sengoku didn't hesitate at all. He had already accepted 80% of Kong's work before, so in fact he has been doing the work of Marine Marshal all the time, but 101 didn't have any discomfort. Immediately afterwards, Sengoku took out a stack of papers and began to mutter. This time, the vacancy of Marine Admiral will be filled by former Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Sakazuki and former Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Pelusolino. There is no doubt that these two men from the first batch of the elite battalion successfully became the newly appointed Marine Admiral. Hearing this news, Kuzan below also gave a wry smile helplessly. Although he also thought that his strength was not weaker than the other two, he felt that this result was obvious and predictable. No way. Who made his qualifications slightly weaker than the other two? Advertisement. In addition, neither Sakazuki nor Pelusolino is weaker than him, so this appearance is quite normal. Although he was a little disappointed, he didn't feel dissatisfied. If he were to become Marine Admiral, the other two would definitely be dissatisfied. As for Yoshido and Cake, there is no need to say more. The two of them have no doubts about Sengoku and Kong's decision. After all, in terms of strength, the two of them are still slightly behind the three monsters in front. It's not even Kuzan's turn yet, so how could it be the turn of the two of them? Kuzan, you go to the New World G1 branch to be the base commander. In addition, the two of you will also guard the G1 branch together. Mole, you go to the G2 branch to be the base commander, and burn the volcano to the G3 branch to be the base commander. G4 branch. Soon, Sengoku also read out a list that had been drawn up long ago. It can be said that the position of Marine Vice Admiral has almost changed a lot. But generally speaking, you can probably see what's going on. The young men from the elite battalion headed by Kuzan and others were all dispatched to the chaotic sea area of New World, some were base commanders, and some were stationed. And those powerful vice admirals who were 50 years old and above were assigned to various branches in the first half of the Grand Line, and even to the branches in the Four Seas region. Obviously, this time Marines' change has obviously begun to reuse young people. Advertisement. But what I have to say is that the appearance of the elite battalion has indeed made the Marine Young faction extraordinarily powerful, so it directly led to the increase of the Marine Young faction's right to speak. In addition, these old people in Marine didn't have much idea of fighting for this aspect, so naturally they could only stop here. However, in addition to the young and strong faction, Marine naturally also needs some older and experienced old people to be the staff of each branch. Almost all the people assigned to the New World G-Series branch are vice admirals who are quite famous in Marine and have particularly strong practical ability. All of a sudden, Marine's goal in New World became very clear. Directly replacing a large number of young men who are full of blood and eager to fight, this is definitely a great oppressive force for the New World pirates. Of course, to everyone's surprise, Sengoku did not announce that 3 admirals would go to the New World base. With the current quota, each New World branch already has a base chief and a staff officer. It is impossible for Admiral to go and help these people, right? We must know that in the terrifying sea area of New World, sufficient combat power is very important, and it has always been a tradition for Marine Admiral to guard the New World branch. Want to make Kuzan into Garp? Taking one look at Kong, Murphy instantly understood what Kong was thinking. This kind of idea is absolutely impossible to make according to my own understanding of Sengoku. That is, Kong will take such a big gamble. When there were 3 big pirates before, Marine only had 2 admirals, and Zephyr was still serving as admiral in name, but in fact Che was no longer in charge of the frontline combat power. Advertisement. Under such circumstances, the high-end combat power guarding New World has always been Garp. Although Garp is a vice admiral in name, in fact Garp's influence is no weaker than that of Marine Admiral. It can even be said that he is the real No. 1 Marine in terms of combat effectiveness. In the eyes of the outside world, Garp has always been regarded as the 3rd Admiral of Marine. And this time the approach is also obvious. Kuzan's strength is not weaker than Sakazuki and Pelusolino, and he is fully capable of taking the position of Marine Admiral. That being the case, then their Marine will copy another Garp legend, let Kuzan be the main force to guard New World, and make Kuzan Marine's actual 4th Marine Admiral. And just in case, 2 people, Madoka and Kaji, who have backup admiral combat power, were arranged to go together. This combat power is definitely not weaker than a single Garp 4.5. As for the current 3 admirals are also very simple. Sakazuki, who is particularly optimistic about the government, will definitely guard Mariajoy. And Murphy is not only the Marine Admiral, but also the Chief of Staff of the headquarters, so he must stay in the headquarters to guard. The rest of Pelusolino's target is probably the Hunters Guild of Sabayati Archipelago. Chapter 142 Different Shichibukai. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 142 Different Shichibukai. Immediately afterwards, the arrangement of the 3 admirals announced by Sengoku was not different from Murphy's expectations. Because there are too many transfers and job changes this time, Sengoku has no way to report to the whole army immediately. And because there are too many people, after talking about these things to these generals, there are still many detailed adjustments. It wasn't until the evening that everyone's situation was roughly sorted out. Then everyone left one after another. However, the newly promoted admirals and several important people did not make any moves to leave. Because before the start, Sengoku had already said in advance that there is one more thing after the meeting. It's not because of anything else that I let you stay. It's mainly because of the proposal that the government has been considering but has not implemented. Seeing that there were only a few members of the core group left, Sengoku took out a report and put it in front of everyone. His expression was a little bit uneasy. It is indeed a headache for Sengoku to encounter such troublesome things just after taking office. 7 Warlords of the Sea Plan. After seeing this plan, many people present frowned. Advertisement. They had heard about this plan before. But they never really got the news about this plan to be implemented. However, this 7 Warlords of the Sea Plan is different from the previous 7 Warlords of the Sea Plan. The biggest gap is the identification of 7 Warlords of the Sea. The former 7 Warlords of the Sea identified as FA High Bandits working with the government. Now this 7 Warlords of the Sea is completely different. Because of the precedent of Bullet, this time the world government plans to copy this precedent and then copy a group of pirates like Bullet to join the Hunters Guild. And although these pirates joined the Hunters Guild, they had to obey the call of the world government. Although it can be said that it is changing the soup but not the medicine, it has undergone a complete change in nature. Because this group of people can not only be used to deter pirates, but also can be used to supervise the Hunter Guild. Although the 3 neutral organizations of the Hunters Guild, the World Economic News Agency, and the Capital of Gold have been very peaceful over the years, each organization has enough influence to influence the whole world, and the government has also tried every means to infiltrate it. These organizations. Although there are not small results, but the effect is not significant. And this 7 Warlords of the Sea system is a bright card that the world government has given to the Hunter Guild. Advertisement. Let me tell you clearly that I just want to use these people to monitor the actions of the Hunter Guild. Moreover, it is the kind of clear card that is not allowed to refuse at all. Why do you want to recruit these pirates again? It's not enough to set a precedent for Bullet, do you still want to continue? After reading less than a third of the content, Sakazuki couldn't help but punched on the desk. A man with a fiery temper like him couldn't bear such absurd things. Not only Sakazuki, although other people did not show too much of this kind of expression, they more or less had the same opinion in their hearts. One bullet has already made them quite ashamed, and now one is not enough, and they even think of a second one. This really made everyone present a little incomprehensible. Our Marines' responsibility is to fight against pirates, what's the point of opening the door to pirates now? That's right, I also think that the 7 Warlords of the Sea system is completely unnecessary. Although the guys from the Hunters Guild are walking around the edge, it is a neutral organization after all. Is it necessary to be so defensive? Pelusolino asked. He waved his hand and asked strangely. And several other people also expressed their opinions one after another. Obviously, as Marines, they naturally don't want this kind of thing to happen. You could even say feel ashamed. When did their Marine suppress the pirates and still need the help of the pirates? For everyone present, this is a direct insult. Advertisement. What's more, under the guidance of Zephyr, the rise of the Marine Young sect has also continuously strengthened Marines' reserve army. Not to mention, there are a total of 6 representatives of the Young Strong sect with Admiral's strength. 3 Admirals and 3 backup Admirals. Although the backup Admirals are slightly weaker, they also have Admiral-level combat effectiveness, otherwise they wouldn't be called Admirals backups. Adding people like Sengoku and Garp, there is no need for a system like 7 Warlords of the Sea. But Zephyr shook his head. 7 Warlords of the Sea even directly vetoed their relationship with Marine. These pirates have directly become subordinates of the world government, and we have no power to control this. Sengoku replied somewhat helplessly. The meaning of world government has been quite clear. Compared with the threat of pirates, they are more worried about the potential threat posed by the Hunter Guild and the like. Moreover, this resolution has successfully passed the government meeting. As a subsidiary of 513 Marine, even though Kong, the Marshal of Marine, strongly opposes it, there are obviously more officials who support the government. However, as a consolation, the government also handed over a lot of Shichibukai quotas to the Marine for screening, and screened out some guys who are called pirates, but not a big threat. As for how to measure it, we leave it to Marine's own consideration. There are a total of 3 quotas, let's discuss with Yin Joshian. After Sengoku finished speaking, the scene suddenly fell into an extreme silence. Obviously, everyone has not recovered from Sengoku's words, let alone find the right Shichibukai candidate. However, Murphy was the first to respond and said, since we can't stop it, let's choose some suitable people. I propose to invite Hawkeye. Chapter 143 Reiatsu of the Golden Lion. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 143 Reiatsu of the Golden Lion. Hawkeye. The Lone Ranger. Hearing the name that Murphy threw out first, everyone present was stunned for a few seconds, but they quickly reacted. Although Hawkeye is a pirate, it doesn't seem to have done much harm. And more importantly, Hawkeye is just a person, not a pirate group, and also possesses overwhelming and terrifying strength. If it had to be done, then obviously someone like Hawkeye would be the best candidate. Hawkeye. It is indeed a good candidate. I happen to have 2 candidates on my side, K-Lockdar and Gecko Moria. Sengoku nodded, and then said the 2 candidates he had chosen before. Those 2 guys who challenged the New World 4 Emperors and failed. Marine actually wants to cooperate with this kind of trash. Hearing these 2 names, Sakazuki said with some disdain. In the final analysis, these 2 people are just losers who challenged New World. Although they have a high reputation among pirates and have good strength, Sakazuki still looks down on these 2 people. You can't say that, it's because these 2 are losers, so it's better to control them. Pelusolino spread his hands and said helplessly. Advertisement. It is precisely because these 2 are losers in challenging the 4 emperors that they are even less threatening. That's true. If that's the case, let's set these 3 people as Marines' targets for the time being. I'll go to them personally and ask them what they think. At this point, Crane also echoed. These three candidates are indeed very small threats to them. And he also planned to go out and talk to these three people himself. As a top figure in the previous era, he has no problem finding these three people with his strength. The others didn't have any opinions, because everyone knew that Crane's strength was sufficient. In this way, this incident can be regarded as being officially exposed in Marine. And it was followed by publicity to the outside world. Marine put down his face and cancelled the pirates' bounty order, and recruited him to the Hunters Guild. Many New World pirates laughed. Of course, while making a fool of themselves by laughing at Marine, many people were also a little moved. The strength of the Hunter Guild can be said to be the focus of the whole world, especially regarding the fragment of Hogyoku. The whole world knows how terrible the effect is. Even the celestial dragons are wooing. Just being able to legally join the Hunters Guild is enough to make most people tempted. Advertisement. However, Marine also directly stated that the pirate whose bounty order was cancelled must have at least the strength of an A-level hunter to go to the Hunter Guild, and if he switches to Marine, he must at least have the strength of a top Vice Admiral, or even the fighting power of Admirals backup up. And there are only 7 places, and ordinary people don't have this opportunity at all. The second is about the transfer of Marine. The rise of the young team and Marine's massive investment in the young and powerful Vice Admiral in New World has made it clear that they will further expand Marine's territory in New World. This also made many pirates a little worried. If Marine took a fancy to this small piece of land in their hands, they would probably not be able to defend it, and they might be wiped out directly. 7 Warlords of the Sea. Interesting. W. Sitting in the Hunters Guild, Golden Lion also showed a very interested expression after seeing the news. Obviously, he could see that this strategy was aimed directly at the Hunter Guild. To directly recruit 7 A-level hunters, the world government's hand is really not small. You must know that there are only 4 A-level bounty hunters under the Hunter Guild. Of course, after owning Hogyoku, the strength of these 4 people is naturally different, and each of them is at least as high as Crane. The level of the Vice Admiral fight. After all, if it is only a Hogyoku fragment, although the strength will increase, it will not produce a decisive qualitative change. However, it doesn't matter how much that kind of waste is. Now I already have enough power to control 10 cases. A touch of Reiatsu inadvertently leaked out, and that huge oppressive feeling immediately shrouded the entire Hunters Guild. Except for an A-level hunter who stayed in the guild, everyone's knees trembled under the heavy pressure of Reiatsu. Advertisement. Quote. It seems that today's incident made the president very angry. I haven't seen the president leak Reiatsu in such a gaffe for a long time. A man who looked a little slender stroked his glasses lightly, looked in the direction of the second floor and whispered. He is an A-level hunter in the Hunter Guild now. Under the Reiatsu that Golden Lion inadvertently leaked, he is the only one who has not been affected. But he knows that this is not the full power of the Golden Lion. He faced once Golden Lion's fully unleashed Reiatsu. Even though he already possessed a strength close to the Admiral level, he still felt a sense of suffocation under Golden Lion's full-strength Reiatsu. Only those who have owned Reiatsu can understand how terrible it is. The stronger the person, the more they can understand the horror of Reiatsu. After feeling the unfathomable Reiatsu of Golden Lion, the fear will be further escalated. Of Lee's, just looking at it, seems to be staring into the abyss. Moreover, even he didn't know whether the power that the Golden Lion erupted at that time was the full power of the Golden Lion. It can only be said that it is very likely that the limit has not been reached. Based on his understanding of the Golden Lion, the power of the Golden Lion is far more than this, especially, no one can imagine how terrifying the Golden Lion with a whole Hogyoku is. Chapter 144 Suspected Murphy. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 144 Suspected Murphy. While at the same time, with Pelusolino entering the Sabayati archipelago, one thing also began to proceed slowly. Have someone secretly search the entire Sabayati archipelago, especially the underground of the Sabayati archipelago. As soon as he arrived at the Sabayati archipelago, Kizaru immediately ordered people to search the Sabayati archipelago. The reason why he appeared here instead of New World is also very simple. He was also deliberately arranged here by the world government to investigate some things about the unexplained disappearance of certain seas and the hidden secrets of the Hunters Guild. After ordering the adjutant next to him and the CPO people, Pelusolino also had a heavy look on his face. It just happened to make me encounter such a troublesome task. Investigating the Hunters Guild is a deadly task. It's no exaggeration to say that even with Admiral's strength, he will die here if he is not careful. So even he has to be careful. Advertisement. But, I really can't believe it. Are those missing people related to Murphy 430? Pelusolino also felt a little unbelievable when he thought of this. Murphy, who is gentle to his colleagues and merciless to his enemies, strong, resourceful and humble, has something to do with this matter. Although it was said that this was information analyzed by the world government, Pelusolino still couldn't believe it before seeing it with his own eyes. And to be honest, Pelusolino also felt that the world government was a little overkill. It can be said that countless prisoners died in marine prison, and it can even be said to be a norm. After all, most of them are vicious pirates, and it just so happened that a certain marine knew that a certain pirate who had harmed his hometown was caught, so he looked for a relationship. Naturally, there is a way to make a prisoner in the prison baffled, dissipated. This kind of thing can be said to be too much, and it is too normal. Even the leaders of Marine knew about it and wouldn't say anything about it. It was just killing 1 or 2 pirates. When I went out to sea to fight some pirate groups, I killed many more people than here. So Marine has almost no control over this aspect, so the general meaning is that although this thing is not acceptable in principle, everyone has done it and acquiesced. So in fact, in Pelusolino's view, Pelusolino felt disgusted from the bottom of his heart when the world government challenged Murphy about the pirates' poor supervision, and even talked about conspiracy theories. Although he looks quite ordinary on the surface, he doesn't care about anything. But for his friends at the same time, Sakazuki and Murphy are both very important, and they are also one of the few people in the elite camp who can talk to him on an equal footing. Advertisement. What's more, now Murphy is the Admiral of Headquarters and even concurrently serves as the General Staff of Naval Headquarters, second only to Marshal Sengoku in power, and is also the future Marshal of Marine appointed by Kong more than 10 years ago. After Sengoku stays in this position for about 20 years, I'm afraid it's time for Murphy to become the Marine Marshal, and his power and strength have reached their peak. You must know that Marine is the most terrifying power faction organization in the world, and no single force can compare with Marine. What does Marshal Marine mean? It means that you can support your own self-respect, directly ignore the orders of the world government, and even directly challenge the world government to overthrow the violent organization of the world government. So anyway, he doesn't believe Murphy will betray Marine. Forget it. Let's go take a look over there first. Pelusolino looked BCBE at a small isolated island not far away. Although the isolated island looked ordinary and didn't have any facilities, Pelusolino felt inexplicably that there seemed to be something hidden here. For his intuition, Pelusolino still trusts it very much, even if it is just a blind intuition for no reason. A ray of light flashed, and Pelusolino directly used elementalization to quickly move to the opposite island. Pelusolino walked to the small island and slowly walked inside. It feels very ordinary. Just after taking a few steps forward, Pelusolino scratched his head in confusion. How do you describe the feeling given to him here? All in all, it is a very ordinary feeling. There is almost no difference from ordinary isolated islands. Advertisement. However, since it's an isolated island, it shouldn't be a problem to use my ability to clean it a little bit, right? Thinking of this, Pelusolino instantly turned into countless light particles, and the sudden burst of intense light seemed like the second sun appeared in the sky. 8-foot Chong Guyu. As soon as Pelusolino's words fell, the entire sky was radiant in an instant, and countless light particles shot down like rain, densely, towards the entire island. Boom. 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 Fortunately, this isolated island is still a certain distance from the Sabayati archipelago. With the roar of the super explosion, Sabayati archipelago only felt a slight earthquake in the distance. But for them, earthquakes are already commonplace, so naturally they are nothing to worry about. And on this isolated island, a huge explosion lit up in the air, and the extremely violent shock wave made people feel a burst of fear. If an ordinary person stood here, he would be melted by Pelusolino's attack in an instant. This was the destructive power of Marine Admiral. The huge rocks and trees were completely smashed, turned into debris and floated directly into the sea with the wind, becoming a part of the sea. After a while, When Pelusolino returned to the ground, looking at the miserable scene on the island at this time, he touched his head and said, "Oh no, it seems like I've overdone it." Chapter 145 Negation. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 145 Negation. Through observation hockey, Pelusolino can feel that the entire island is almost destroyed by him now. It's troublesome. It's obviously just for investigation, it seems to be enlarged. After seeing the damage he caused, Pelusolino's face became a little ugly. I was used to doing things unscrupulously before, but I accidentally did it again just now. If the monsters from the Hunters Guild found themselves investigating them, even he wouldn't be able to handle it. Although Sparkling Fruit's escape method is very good, but observation hockey is better than him, and there are no people who can interrupt him in advance. Wait. That's it. At this time, Pelusolino was very sensitive to discover that a clearing in the distance had a completely different scene from other places. Does your intuition come true? After the place on this island was randomly blasted by his ability, there is no piece of land that is still intact. But on the other side, there is a place that looks so ordinary, but it is completely unaffected. Advertisement. There is no doubt that this place must be protected by some special force. And this power can even resist his full attack. With tentative thoughts, Pelusolino slowly approached that area. Walking to the edge of that area, although I didn't feel any resistance, the ground seemed to be completely connected with other grounds, without any strangeness. If he hadn't used his own ability to bombard the island indiscriminately, I'm afraid he would never have thought that such a thing was hidden in it. Can't it be opened? That's the case. After observing it again, Pelusolino didn't find where this thing could be opened. So, he directly stretched out his finger, aimed at the ground, and a cross-shaped light gathered on Pelusolino's finger. Laser. Purr. However, Pelusolino himself felt a strange scene happened. The moment his laser hit the ground, as if some wonderful reaction had occurred, his attack dissipated directly on the land. It's like it never happened. This is really. No wonder the attack just now didn't work on this place alone. Is it because of the existence of this thing? Pelusolino looked at the things on the ground curiously. Being able to directly absorb his attacks, this ability is simply unprecedented. Of course, if there are people in the Shinigami world here, they will understand what this is, the negation that Shu used to save his companions, and this area is made of negation, another world different from this world. Advertisement. It was the most important precaution Murphy took to keep the hollow experiment safe. Being in two completely different spaces, no one in this world can do it yet if you want to enter it and investigate the things about the hollow experiment inside. However, with such strict protection, I am afraid that only the Hunter Guild can do it. Speaking of this, Pelusolino also fell silent. In fact, Pelusolino knew of someone else who could do that. Set up defenses that he can't break through. In addition to the Golden Lion of the Hunters Guild having this power, there is another person who is a sinner. Although it is said that the number of shots taken by Murphy has been very small in recent years, this does not mean that Murphy's strength has regressed. Even Pelusolino could clearly feel that Murphy's strength was constantly increasing, even much stronger than before. Even the Golden Lion, the president of the Hunters Guild, was far less scary than Murphy. However, Pelusolino is not willing to speculate on this aspect. But even so, he still took a photo of this place very seriously, and then went to look around for other usable clues. He couldn't get in anyway, so he could only let it go. Give the obtained information to the world government, and let the world government find a way to find someone to crack this thing. But Murphy didn't know that Kizaru was here to search for the contents of Hollow's experiment. At this time, Murphy was going to the place where Vegapunk was. Advertisement. ... But this time, it wasn't Murphy who took the initiative to go to where Vegapunk was, but Vegapunk told him to come. Except for the one meeting with Vegapunk in the past 10 years, Murphy has not taken the initiative to meet the other party. Basically, he met Vegapunk for a reason or job arrangement. And when they met at this time, apart from a few simple chats, neither Murphy nor Vegapunk did any other superfluous actions. It was as if the content of the conversation when the two first met had never appeared. But this time Vegapunk actually took the initiative to look for him, and there was no reason to look for him. Have you finally got some clues? I've been waiting for you for so many years, Vegapunk. Murphy slightly raised the corners of his lips, and was also curious about how powerful this so-called brain that claims to be so much ahead of the world is. Once Murphy is also ready to see it. After all, in terms of research ability, the Aizen knowledge he inherited is not bad at all, and being able to communicate with such a top-notch brain is also very helpful to him. After all, in addition to Aizen's own talent in Reiatsu, his talent in IQ and research ability also benefited him a lot. Among other things, isn't Shangyu the result of this ability? In this way, Murphy soon set off directly and started heading towards the research institute where Vegapunk was located. A few hours later, in a laboratory surrounded by pure white strange steel, Murphy also saw Vegapunk. Chapter 146 Vegapunk's Research Results. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 146 Vegapunk's Research Results. Vegapunk, wearing a standard researcher's white coat, stood in front of a glass circular cylinder. Inside that thing, Murphy thought secretly. Ignoring everything around him, Murphy could feel that there was a huge amount of spiritual particles in the huge glass container of the circular column. And the feeling it gave him right now is like Hogyoku that hasn't yet formed. Are you able to conduct research on Hogyoku with just that little thing? It's Vegapunk. Murphy secretly admired. Of course, the gap between the complete Hogyoku and the unformed Hogyoku is naturally not that big. But Vegapunk didn't say much, but walked forward, and the secret door of the sun path appeared in front of him. The research on the Hogyoku fragment thing has hardly progressed, and you have seen the results of the research. Vegapunk pointed to the cylindrical glass column. Advertisement. Of course, the bounty offered today is a completely different concept from the bounty offered 10 or 20 years ago, but the Foundation meeting in Nyu Yakion City is not an ordinary person. So when hearing the word imaginary, Vegapunk immediately associated the following monsters with this word. Then what do you mean by asking me to come? Murphy asked a little puzzled. Such a guy with extraordinary potential let Vegapunk snatch food from the world government and turned it into a test product in his own hands. It has to be said that it is Vegapunk. How is it? Walking in front of Vegapunk, Murphy put his hands in his pockets and asked Vegapunk. I traded for this guy with Seastone's research results. It's not so easy to let the world government let go. Vegapunk seemed to understand what Murphy was thinking, and shook his head and said. As long as his loyalty and strength can be guaranteed, this guy should soon become the strongest shield in the CPO, responsible for protecting the owner of the celestial dragons. Vegapunk pressed a button next to it, and then in the arena, an elevator slowly rose up from the ground. Although it was far away, Murphy recognized the opponent as a pirate at a glance. Fortunately, Vegapunk is a researcher of 3.4, and he has done a lot of human experiments, otherwise it will inevitably cause a lot of doubts. Murphy wasn't afraid at all that Vegapunk would trap him, and followed him directly. This guy is going to fight this guy. Advertisement. That's right. The one below that turned out to be an Ijuka's level void. And this Ijuka's level void is not simple. Although it is not like the Manos Grande that can be promoted to the highest level, it also has extremely terrifying potential. It must be the only one in the Manos Grande of the Ijuka's level. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. After all, this is research, and every step forward will take at least 327, more than 10 years. For this kind of field that has never been set foot, and it is still done by one person. After all, you must know that even the two monsters with superior intelligence, Aizen and Urahara Kazuki in the original book, were not able to complete this thing completely. That's right, Shu is divided into many levels, but the ones that can really play a role are at least the Jillian level, and then the Ijuka's level. If you can cultivate an Ijuka's level Shu, it means that you should also have cultivated different levels. Young Jillian? Murphy asked, looking at Vegapunk. It took a lot of effort to get this guy to do experiments. You should have heard of this guy's name before, the one who was known as the strongest in the Enies Lobby CP spy organization for 800 years. Vegapunk said to Murphy arrive. Even among so many test subjects, only this guy looks completely different from the other test subjects. It seems that there is a big difference between the results of this experiment and the test subject's own strength and potential. In the end, the Hogyoku researched by the two people was fused together to form a complete Hogyoku. A bounty of 480 million is offered for the fruit of the ancient saber-toothed tiger's ability, the saber-toothed tiger Gon. Murphy frowned and said, "False." Murphy couldn't help saying the word out. Advertisement. P.S. Open black lens bracket 1 close black lens bracket. Exclamation mark. Lucci is known as the government's strongest ruthless killing weapon. When Lucci was 13 years old, a kingdom under the world government was invaded by pirates. 500 soldiers in the kingdom were defeated and captured. The pirates used 500 soldiers to blackmail the king. In the warehouse where the 500 soldiers were held, all 500 soldiers were killed by one person, and he solved the crisis of the kingdom alone. Shoo. I see. Is this the real name of this monster? Hearing the word Murphy said, Vegapunk nodded. As the owner of this thing, Vegapunk naturally knew very well what this thing represented. Wearing something. Immediately afterwards, Vegapunk pressed another button again, and saw that opposite the saber-toothed tiger Gon, another elevator slowly rose. When Murphy saw what was inside, he couldn't help but shrink his pupils. This guy has already been spotted by the world government, and he may plan to enter the CPO after CP9 has been trained for a period of time, and will be directly responsible for the safety of celestial dragons. Although I had guessed that Vegapunk might conduct research in this area before, I didn't expect him to actually do it. It's not a small price to let the world government let go of this kind of talent in his hands. Soon, after passing through the secret door, a huge deep pit appeared in front of him. To be precise, it should look like a large battlefield, probably similar to a duel field. Whether the finished Hogyoku can be used is still a big question. It may take 100 years to complete the foundation of Hogyoku from here. Chapter 147 Beyond Espada's Steel Skin. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 147 Beyond Espada's Steel Skin. Isn't this a matter of course? Talented people will be better than others no matter in which field, no one can deny the existence of so-called genius. Murphy replied flatly. He couldn't believe that people like Vegapunk wouldn't understand such an easy-to-understand thing. The battle has already begun, look over there. Immediately afterwards, Murphy directly focused on the battle below. However, even though it was a battle, Murphy had already guessed that it would be a completely one-sided massacre. Ejuka's level virtuality is not something that a mere 400 to 500 million pirates can handle. Soon, under the watchful eyes of the two, Lucci and the saber-toothed tiger Gon fought together, but a shocking sight appeared. Even if the sharp claws and teeth of the saber-toothed tiger Gon were covered with armament hockey, there was no way to break the steel skin on Lucci's body. Advertisement. Just for a moment, at the moment when Lucci made a move, Gon, the saber-toothed tiger, had no time to react, and was directly scratched by the sharp claws in Lucci's throat in an instant. And not only that, after piercing the throat with one claw, Lucci didn't show any mercy at all, and the other hand directly poured into Gon's chest, tearing the skin and muscles, smashing the ribs inside, and directly piercing the opponent's heart. All of these processes were surprisingly fast. In less than 30 seconds, a monster close to 500 million was simply wiped out. Moreover, Lucci was still not satisfied, and directly rushed up after controlling Hollow's body to completely eat the saber-toothed tiger Gon. This is also one of that guy's special abilities. After devouring the enemy, he can gain stronger defense and attack power. Compared with when he was just born, this guy's body has been strengthened by at least 3 times. I don't know this ability yet. Where is the limit of W? Vegapunk explained to Murphy. This is what makes Vegapunk feel the most interesting. He can gain stronger defense and attack power by devouring other people. This ability sounds really scary. If only there were no limits. No, it's not just the attack power and defense power. The ability of high-speed regeneration is also enhanced with devouring. But it's almost impossible for you to experiment with his regeneration power. Looking confidently at the following, Lucci said. With the current method of Vegapunk, it is impossible to tear Lucci's steel skin. The strength of this guy's steel skin, even if Arrancar has not been carried out, is probably already comparable to that of Neutra Gilga. Advertisement. As the 5th Espada, Neutra Gilga's steel skin defense can be said to be the strongest among all. Both attack and defense are extremely terrifying. It's hard to imagine what would happen if Lucci passed through Hogyoku's Arrancar. I have to say that he is indeed the strongest person in the world government for 800 years. Yes, although I have long wanted to try this guy's self-healing ability, but it is almost impossible. This guy's steel skin defense is too strong. With my current means, no matter what, I can't break through his defense. Speaking of this, Vegapunk also shook his head helplessly. As a scientific researcher, the lack of equipment for continued research is definitely the most troublesome thing. But this place is already a laboratory built with all the strength of the world government, and things that cannot be done here, let alone other places. How many other Jillians have you produced? Murphy asked Vegapunk. Vegapunk is also a pig and said, at the beginning, I experimented with some corpses through the things you gave, but it was almost useless. In the future, all human experiments will be carried out with living people, but there are very few guys who can withstand the evolution process. 99% of the guys died because of the experiments. Finally, I asked the government to prepare for me. I sent a group of impelled down powerful pirates to conduct experiments, and in the end only a very small number of powerful pirates succeeded. But fortunately, after the success, the fragment of Hogyoku can be used by the next person, no matter how strong or weak it will not lead to death. This is very interesting. Advertisement. Vegapunk said without hesitation that it is clearly prohibited human experimentation, but who is Vegapunk? As long as the requirements are not too excessive, the world government will satisfy the scientist without any scruples. Even if his experiment is extremely anti-human, as long as the world government is willing, no one can investigate and deal with it. But Murphy is not interested in this at all. After all, this is what he has already played, and what the world government will do has nothing to do with him. Up to now, more than 20 monsters like the Jillian you mentioned have been cultivated, and the destructive power of each one has the destructive power of Marine Commodore to Rear Admiral, but the intelligence is too low, so one-on-one there is almost no possibility of winning in a one-on-one match. But if it is used in war, it is definitely a huge and terrible weapon. Vegapunk said with some excitement. Is it used in war? No wonder the world government is so generous to send you so many test subjects. If a group of useless criminals can become weapons of war, it is only natural that the world government will be so concerned. Good money. Compared with pacifists and the like, things like Jillian are naturally more suitable to be used as war weapons for the world government. After all, things like pacifists are very expensive, and the manufacturing cost of one is a warship. And these Jillian only need to make those useless and food-wasting pirates in impel down, and the cost is not at the same level at all. Chapter 148 Soul Materialization. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 148 Soul Materialization. Of course, if those guys don't feed their appetites with something, it's hard to be effective. Vegapunk didn't deny it either. Although as a scientist, he can enjoy part of the resources as a matter of course, but in general, it is better to give investors a little hope and benefits. And finding a way to use these Jillians in the military is the soldier drawn by Vegapunk for the world government. So why did you mention this to me? Is there no way to control these irrational monsters? Murphy has also roughly guessed why Vegapunk came to him. It's nothing more than wanting to find him to see if there is a way to control these monsters. It's all right to tell you how to control these Jillians, but what do you want in exchange? All of these can be given to you. While talking, Vegapunk took out a lot of materials from the side. These are all the materials he has studied Hogyoku, Void, and Soul for more than 10 years. You didn't tell me what you wanted when you handed it to me. If that's the case, I can give you all these research results. Vegapunk said indifferently. Advertisement. Although it is said that he has successfully studied for more than 10 years, for him, this is already the past 823, the research results he wants are already in his mind, and the rest of these things may be really useful, but for him it still doesn't make any sense. As long as he can exchange for the capital to continue his research, he can give all the materials he had before to others. That's a pure researcher. But it is precisely because of this, such purity, that all can achieve such great results in this regard. Interesting. Is there any research on how to materialize souls? Murphy asked Vegapunk, glancing casually at the contents. Materialize the soul. If you switch to another world view, this has another brand new name, the third method. In the Fate world, the soul has endless energy, and the perfect body is created using the soul as a template. To be honest, Murphy has only just stepped into the area of understanding about the materialization of the soul, but according to part of the interpretation of the materialization of the soul and the knowledge of Aizen's BCFE Tao, Murphy is also trying to complete the power of the third law. That's why he let Vegapunk join the research on the soul. As the soul materialized, there is also part of my research materials before. Vegapunk was interrupted before he could finish speaking. If that's the case, that's fine. All I need is this part of the information. As for the method of controlling those Jillians, it's also very simple. The weaker ones will obey the stronger ones. Just let Lucci, the Ajuka's level virtual, take command and use them. Those Jillians. Advertisement. After speaking, Murphy took the information in Vegapunk's hand and left directly to the outside. Of course, Lucci, who has evolved into Ajuka's level, has no sense at all, let alone control Jillian. How to make Lucci regain his sanity, this is the problem that Vegapunk needs to solve now. Murphy just pointed out a way for Vegapunk. As for whether it can be successful, it depends on Vegapunk himself. Fig. The ability to devour, super strong attack defense and high-speed regeneration. I didn't expect to see a good ability. Although I don't know where the opponent's limit is, but this power obviously has great potential. And more importantly, he actually received some experimental data about soul materialization from Vegapunk. And after this reminder, in order to trade some things with himself, Vegapunk may also independently research some valuable things in this area. After all, to deal with this kind of scientist, it is impossible to make him honestly work for this kind of scientist by directly stating the requirements. Song only uses this method. Vegapunk will take the initiative to study this issue. But Murphy had just walked out of the research institute, and when he was still on his way back, a person from Marine called him on his portable phone. General Staff, 5 elders, please go over there. The Marine said very respectfully. 5 elders. I see. Murphy frowned involuntarily. It was a normal contact for him to come here to meet Vegapunk. How could 5 elders find him suddenly? Advertisement. But after thinking about it for a while, Murphy felt that it shouldn't be because of his meeting with Vegapunk this time. After all, even if 5 elders wanted to meet him because of this matter, it would take at least 2 or 3 days to go through the process. This should be due to some previous matters that required meeting him. Thinking of this, Murphy was also relieved. Soon, he came to the large conference hall where the 5 elders often stayed. The furnishings inside were as simple as ever, and it could even be said to be a bit empty. Murphy was not polite either, he directly opened the door and walked in. At the same time, the 5 eyes in the hall also looked directly at Murphy. Your Excellency 5 elders, what can I do for you? After walking in, Murphy still put on his usual gentle look, making it impossible to find any faults. Shichibukai's quota is the last one left, but the situation of the last one is a bit troublesome. 5 elders with a flat forehead said with a headache. Originally, they had almost confirmed the number of places, but in the end a little accident happened. Trouble. Oh, it's the pirate from North Blue, right? Murphy said lightly. If there was any major event in the past few days, there is no doubt that it was behind the scenes, that the gold in the sky was robbed by people. Chapter 149 See-Through 5 Elders Scheme. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 149 See-Through the 5 Elders Scheme. The gold from the sky was robbed, which is a big event for the world government. But regardless of the identity of the other party, they really have nothing to do with each other for a while. Moreover, the world government cannot be directly announced to the outside world, which caused the 5 elders a very headache for a while. Fortunately, the other party simply wanted a seat in Shichibukai. If that was the case, it would not be difficult to satisfy the other party's appetite. So the Doflamingo guy was promised to make him a Shichibukai. If that's the case, there's no need for me to come over here, right? Murphy asked. Of course it's not that simple. Although it is said to be celestial dragons, this approach is too much. We need to hit that guy with absolute strength. 5 elders replied. Obviously, even though Doflamingo used to be celestial dragons, the act of robbing the heavenly gold has completely angered the people here, so the world government wants to suppress that bastard Doflamingo with absolute force. As for a candidate with such strength, Murphy is definitely the most suitable one. But Murphy clearly smelled something very unusual. The smell of conspiracy. This matter is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. Advertisement. Do you want to temporarily transfer me to North Blue? In other words, these old guys have been secretly investigating me, right? In addition to the fact that I was directly on the general staff. At this moment, Murphy seemed to understand what Five Elders was thinking. In the past, he had a conflict with the CPO. Although the matter was left alone at the time, the CPO, as a force close to the Five Elders faction, will definitely play a role in Murphy's promotion in Marine in the future. Stone. It's okay to promote him to Marine Admiral, after all, he has the strength and achievements, and Marine was short of people at that time. But, no matter how you look at it, the latter thing feels abnormal. The position of Naval Headquarters General Staff was also handed over to Murphy. Although he deserved this position, everyone in the staff department, including he, admired his IQ. However, letting one person hold two positions at the same time, and both of them have pivotal positions in the Marine, does not seem like something that the world government will do. But, if it's about moving him back to naval headquarters from the Sabayati archipelago, it could make sense. And now, the Five Elders apparently want to drop him to North Blue for a temporary quest. From naval headquarters to North Blue, it took almost a month to go back and forth. It looks like he found negation over there. No wonder he plans to transfer me away. Murphy slightly raised the corner of his mouth. Although there is no information, but only from some seemingly reasonable, but extremely unreasonable arrangements of Five Elders, you can roughly infer what happened. Advertisement. However, Murphy didn't have the slightest concern about this. He has almost completely mastered the data of the human experiment, and has raised tens of thousands of Jillians under the Sabayati archipelago. Even if he declares war directly, he can push directly over the heads of Marine and world government without any scruples. As for the so-called national treasures of ancient weapon and celestial dragons, Murphy simply ignored them. Hogyoku has provided him with so much Reiatsu over the years that his Reiatsu has grown to an unbelievable size. You must know that only a few years have passed since Aizen was sealed to the Millennium Blood War period, and his strength has skyrocketed again, while it has been more than 20 years for Kei-Fei in exactly the same way. The intensity of Reiatsu is simply unimaginable. No matter what cards world government has, Murphy can easily crush them. The most important thing is that now that the experiment is almost done, he no longer needs to use Admiral's identity to conceal things about the hollow experiment. Although it can be done directly by force, but one side is facing the enemy all the time, and the other side is high position and weight. Everyone knows how to choose. Can't you sit comfortably in Admiral's position? Point 0. But now that the world government is already suspicious of him, there is no need for him to keep trying to hide it, because it is more laborious to conceal the truth than directly crushing it with force. So Murphy naturally intends to choose a simpler way. Of course, the premise is that the world government can get the evidence. Negation's defense alone may have been enough to give those guys a headache for a while. Advertisement. However, the celestial dragons have almost contacted, and Kyōka Suigetsu can be used to cause some trouble for those guys.
Murphy couldn't help but laugh at the thought that the Five Elders would be scrambling to deal with the celestial dragons. All of Marijoy's celestial dragons are now under his Kyōka Suigetsu's control. With a little trickery, Murphy can throw Marijoy into chaos like never before. Even, can kill all celestial dragons in Marijoy overnight. Although there wasn't much conflict between him and the celestial dragons, Murphy hated such moth-like fools from the bottom of his heart. It's like Aizen is to Central 46. So if Murphy really plans to have a showdown with the world government, then none of these celestial dragons will survive. I'm really looking forward to it. How will you guys react after facing a group of dead celestial dragons? Murphy cast a very cryptic glance at Five Elders. Then he directly pushed open the door of the hall and left. Chapter 150 Doflamingo Previous Chapter Next Chapter Advertisement. Chapter 150 Doflamingo On the other side, Doflamingo, who is in North Blue at this time, is quite proud. The reason is also very simple: he hijacked Tianshongjin. Even if other people have this strength, they don't have the guts to rush to hijack Celestial Dragon's heavenly gold, but he can. Even now that he has lost his identity as Celestial Dragons, he has also proved one thing from here: That is, he is different from others. Even the former celestial dragons still have the title of celestial dragons, which cannot be compared with other untouchables. It is a matter of course for celestial dragons to take the heavenly gold, and he dares to do it if others dare not do it, and the world government really has nothing to do with him. After all, as a former celestial dragons, Doflamingo, 380, holds the secrets of celestial dragons, which is one of the trump cards of his opponent world government. And the most important point is that he is the only one left in their Don Quixote family now. Obviously, then, the piece of Hogyoku that once belonged to the Don Quixote family naturally fell into the hands of Doflamingo. Advertisement: Doflamingo is quite confident about his ability now. Doing illegal things in a legal capacity can be said to be a common occurrence in the Hunters Guild. As long as you don't get caught, it doesn't matter no matter what you do. Moreover, the Hunters Guild will not check the hunters under its flag. The possibility of being discovered sex is almost non-existent. It is meaningless to continue discussing this issue. Since they have made plans to threaten the world government, they can only go to the dark one way. Doflamingo was shocked by 1.4 and broke out in a cold sweat on his back. However, someone walked behind him and didn't realize it. Dover, is it really okay to do this? Beside Doflamingo, a snot-nosed man said worriedly. Destroy Marijoy, ruin the group of guys who think they rejected him. Although it is said that Shichibukai are the eyes of the world government monitoring the Hunter Guild, they are different from the other invited guys. Once they can lean on the tree of the Hunter Guild, they will have no fear at all. Coupled with the fact that Doflamingo and the Golden Capital attached to the Hunters Guild also have a lot of business, and coupled with the identity of the Celestial Dragons, it shouldn't be difficult to ask for a Shichibukai position. With Hogyoku, and the ability to develop Devil Fruit to Awakening, and to combine Hollow's ability with Devil Fruit ability, at this time he will not be far behind even in the face of Marine Admiral. After all, although the Hunter Guild is an extremely terrifying behemoth, it doesn't have any desire to control its subordinates, and even has a completely laissez-faire attitude. But the problem is that once it is discovered, it will be expelled. Advertisement: but once Doflamingo negotiates terms with the world government and Celestial Dragons, the other party will definitely target the Hogyoku fragment in his body, so he has to occupy the negotiating position of the dominant 10 parties. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. After all, even if they want to take a Shichibukai position, they can use other methods. If I want Shichibukai, this is the only way to do it. If I want to trade with those guys, the first thing they will see is this Hogyoku fragment in my body. Such a place is really suitable for their family development. Threatening the world government with gold from the sky, you are really brave. A survivor of the Don Quixote family. From behind Doflamingo, a voice suddenly came out. Dover, something is wrong. At this time, Toribol also found out whose name was on the opposite boat, and immediately became nervous. Strength, Doflamingo has. Although he has not entered the New World yet, he is not one of those groupies who don't understand anything. P.S. Open black lens bracket 5 close black lens bracket. With the power of Hogyoku, even within the scope of New World, Doflamingo can easily lay down a piece of his own territory and bite a piece of meat from the hands of the 4 emperors of New World. But just as Doflamingo walked over and looked up, the next second, the terrifying impact of the Japanese stock market exploded. Advertisement: indeed. I just don't know who the world government will send, most likely it's the guys from the CPO. Doflamingo also estimated the time in his heart, and it should be almost time for the world government to send someone. Doflamingo caresses his chest. This Hogyoku shard is his heart. How is it possible to want him to hand over his heart? Doflamingo couldn't help laughing when he thought that he could get rid of his identity as a pirate and join the Hunters Guild, and then expand his underground business madly with the help of the Hunters Guild and the Golden City. Dover, first found a marine approaching us. It seems that the one who came was not the CPO, but the marine. At this moment, Ola G, who had been observing, also walked over quickly. Fame. In places like New World, Doflamingo's reputation was quite loud. However, it's almost half a month, and someone from the marine side should be coming soon. Diamante also changed the subject. Have you come already? Bark bark bark. I really can't stand the nagging. Have you come here just now? Whose flag is flying on the other party's ship? Doflamingo laughed. Although they knew Doflamingo's identity, Celestial dragons had been getting angry recently about the Tianshangjian incident. Coupled with celestial dragons' overbearing behavior, they were also a little worried about whether there would be a big problem. Of course, Doflamingo has no such plans yet. After all, he is different from those pirates. All he wants to do is one thing. But even if it is the strongest shield of CPO, Doflamingo has no fear. What's there to be nervous about? Doflamingo frowned and said something strange.